The situation had been decided. If Heavenly Sword Union did not have backup, Shen Liang and the others would not be able to turn the tide. However, Heavenly Sword Union was only a second-class great force. After Kong Feng's death, sending 2 more 6th-order Open Heaven Realm Masters to set up an ambush here was already their limit. Even if they still had another master of such caliber, it was impossible for them to be here, since they still needed someone to assume command of their headquarters. Only if this ambush was part of a greater plot, where a stronger mastermind was waiting behind the scenes, could the situation be reversed, but that was unlikely. Since the mastermind was using the proprietress to lure Yang Kai to the Shattered Heaven, they must be planning to strike there. Shen Liang and others were probably just the vanguard, sent to test Yang Kai's depths. In fact, Shen Liang and others had already accomplished their mission, since at least Zhu Jiuyin and Chu Huashang had been exposed. This news could naturally not be concealed from those plotting behind the scenes, giving them time to prepare. With so many unknowns, though, Yang Kai did not dare to be careless. He continued to surge his space principles in case he needed to escape. In front of Zhu Jiuyin, Luan Baifeng was simply unable to fight back. In a matter of just 2 or 3 moves, she was severely wounded and was coughing up blood. Luan Baifeng was also a very decisive woman. Knowing that she was definitely not Zhu Jiuyin's opponent, and that a prolonged battle would lead to her death, she used a divine ability that Yang Kai had never seen before, and turned into a red beam of light, traveling thousands of kilometers away in the blink of an eye. Zhu Jiuyin didn't pursue her, as a 6th-order Open Heaven Realm Master, who was determined to flee, was not so easy to kill. Not to mention, Zhu Jiuyin was also worried about possible ambushes lying in wait for her. Seeing that she couldn't kill Luan Baifeng in short order, she simply gave up and turned her gaze towards Shen Liang. Shen Liang felt so depressed that he almost spat out blood. Yu He alone was enough to constrain him, so with Zhu Jiuyin joining in, how could he be their match? Even though he went all out to resist, he was surrounded by danger and was repeatedly walking along the edge of death. On the other hand, Jiang Yunshan, who was tied down by Chu Huashang, saw Luan Baifeng's escape and Shen Liang's desperate situation and decisively attacked Chu Huashang with all his strength. Creating an opening, he immediately fled in the opposite direction. He knew that Shen Liang, who was targeted by an existence like Zhu Jiuyin, was finished, and if he didn't leave when Zhu Jiuyin was done dealing with Shen Liang, he would be next. 2 of the 3 6th-order Open Heaven Realm Masters had fled immediately after Zhu Jiuyin and Chu Huashang showed up. Shen Liang also wanted to flee, but how could he manage to escape? Seeing his own Vice-Union Master running faster than a rabbit from the corner of his eyes, he felt a mixture of grief and anger as his face turned ashen. Teetering on the brink of death, Shen Liang cried out, "Spare my life, and from now on Heavenly Sword Union will follow only Voidland." Zhu Jiuyin's jade-like white hand latched onto the top of his head at that moment, and a violent and unstable power emanated from within her palm. Turning her head to look towards Yang Kai, she silently asked for his opinion. Seeing this, Shen Liang understood that his survival depended entirely on Yang Kai's thoughts, so how could he still care about their gap in cultivation and status? He hastily pleaded, "This Shun is willing to swear an oath on his martial heart. Please show mercy, Sect Master Yang." Yang Kai was not moved and uttered only one word, "Kill!" Shen Liang's eyes widened as Zhu Jiuyin's jade-like white hand clenched, and with a fierce twist, she directly wrenched his head off. The now headless body twitched a few times before it stopped moving. If he really wanted to subdue Shen Liang, Yang Kai could use the loyalty list. After all, right now the loyalty list only had 3 names on it, and there were still 6 pages left. Shen Liang was a 6th-order Open Heaven Realm Master. Thus, he could not resist the power of the loyalty list. The only thing Yang Kai had to do was make him leave his name and imprint on it, and Yang Kai would be able to control his life and death. Chen Tianfei, He He, and Yun Xinghua were all in this situation. Perhaps Shen Liang really could be used to influence Heavenly Sword Union. However, Heavenly Sword Union had already attacked Yang Kai twice, so how could he let them off so easily? He had long been determined in his heart to someday eradicate Heavenly Sword Union from the 3,000 worlds. Naturally, when he was strong enough, Shen Liang, the new Union Master, only held his position for 2 or 3 years before he was killed by Voidland. Including Kong Feng, Heavenly Sword Union had already lost 2 Union Masters at Voidland's hands. There was absolutely no way to resolve such a deep grudge. However, since Heavenly Sword Union was willing to be a blade in the hands of others, they should be prepared to be broken. Many thanks to Senior for rushing to my aid. Yang Kai hurriedly thanked Zhu Jiuyin while cupping his fist in gratitude. Zhu Jiuyin snorted coldly. If it wasn't for Luor's incessant begging, do you think this queen would have come? This queen is only here for Luor's sake, so don't flatter yourself. Yes, it's Luor's good fortune that she is so valued by Senior. Yang Kai nodded repeatedly, while smiling secretly in his heart. Shanqing Luo was currently in secluded retreat under Zhu Jiuyin's tutelage, so she knew nothing about outside events. How would she have gotten to know about Yang Kai's trip? Zhu Jiuyin's statement was clearly just a pretense. Yang Kai guessed that she was afraid Shanqing Luo would blame her if he fell prey to any accidents during this trip of his, which was why she secretly followed him here. Yang Kai did not reveal any such thoughts that flickered across his mind. But Brat, don't forget about the conditions you promised before. This queen will help you this time. Whether you live or die, once this is over, you will consider this queen's oath fulfilled. This queen will regain her freedom either way. Naturally. Yang Kai nodded sternly. Although this junior is young, he always means what he says. After this trip, Senior will no longer be bound by anything. Zhu Jiuyin's expression cleared up a little. Seems you still have some sense. Yang Kai turned to Chu Huashang next and asked with a sigh. Senior Sister Chu, why did you come here too? Chu Huashang withdrew her zither and said with a smile. Naturally, I had to come because you were in trouble. Junior brother Yang, you're really something. Why didn't you call me when you were short of hands? If Senior Zhu hadn't invited me, I wouldn't have even known that you had left Voidland. Yang Kai realized that Chu Huashang was called by Zhu Jiuyin, and hesitantly said, with Senior Sister's status? Chu Huashang smiled and said, I am only acting in my personal capacity on this trip. My actions have nothing to do with Inyang Cave Heaven. While that sounded well and good, in the end, she was still a core disciple of Inyang Cave Heaven. After this trip, she would definitely be reprimanded by her sect. Perhaps it was precisely because of her identity that Zhu Jiuyin specifically invited her, because it would be more convenient to act if she took advantage of Chu Huashang's identity. Yang Kai let out a slight sigh. Forget it. No matter what happens next, you have my sincere thanks, Senior Sister. Chu Huashang pursed her lips and smiled. Junior brother, you could pledge yourself to me if you're so moved. Zhu Jiuyin coldly snorted from the side. Stop flirting. You were ambushed right after you exited Void territory, and there are undoubtedly many more dangers lying ahead. If you have enough time to profess your undying love, you may as well use it to think about how to overcome those dangers and defeat your enemies. Yang Kai coughed lightly and said, Since Senior has shown up, there should be no more difficulties along the way, unless they want to fight Senior to the death. Those people have already used Proprietress to lure me out of Voidland, so they will definitely try to finish me off in the Shattered Heaven. Zhu Jiuyin pondered for a moment and said, According to your speculations, we should be safe until we reach the Shattered Heaven? I believe so, but I can't be sure. In any case, it's better that we act carefully. Saying that is the same as saying nothing. Zhu Jiuyin gave him a blank look. Yang Kai scratched his nose and said, No matter what, we should continue forward first. Right now, we can only take one step at a time. Yuhi's wooden shuttle had been broken in the battle, thus Chu Huashang summoned her flight-type artifact. The small group entered the artifact, after which it zoomed ahead, following the universe chart's guidance. Even as they passed through one great territory after another, there were no further ambushes, just like Yang Kai expected. Wan Baifeng and Jiang Yunshan had escaped from the previous battle, so the news that Zhu Jiuyin was accompanying Yang Kai must have reached the ears of the people behind the scenes. Zhu Jiuyin's strength was close to that of an 8th-order Open Heaven Realm Master, so they would need more than 2 7th-order Open Heaven Realm Masters to join hands to deal with her. As Yang Kai had said, unless they wanted to fight against Zhu Jiuyin to the death, they wouldn't attack them easily. However, all high-rank Open Heaven Realm Masters had cultivated for many, many years, so which one of them didn't cherish his or her own life? Who would want to fight with a divine spirit for nothing? However, Yang Kai was clearly able to notice that someone was following and monitoring them, which was to be expected. Thus, he did not pay attention to it. Now that his whereabouts had already been exposed, he simply prioritized reaching the shattered heaven, since no matter what, he would be exposed sooner or later when he arrived there anyway. After nearly 2 months since he had left Void Land, Yang Kai finally arrived at the shattered heaven after passing through the last territory gate. Yang Kai said hesitantly while looking straight ahead, "Is this the shattered heaven?" As far as he could see, there was a vast region of shattered spirit provinces that were filled with many shops and people. Cultivators were coming and going in droves from this place. Yang Kai originally thought that since the shattered heaven was filled with dangers, there wouldn't be too many people present, even including those who came to explore. But, contrary to his expectations, this place seemed very lively. While not as well organized or laid out as Void Star City, the level of activity in this patchwork-like area was no less. After 2 months of recuperation, Old Bai had somewhat recovered. Hearing Yang Kai's words, he smiled and said, "This is the shattered heaven, but we're still only in the outermost periphery. This place has been explored by countless people, so there will be no danger here." "What's that about?" Yang Kai pointed to the shattered spirit province. "Where there are people, there will naturally be trade. This is essentially the shattered heaven star city, an ungoverned place that is more chaotic than any other in the 3,000 worlds. People who come in and out of the shattered heaven need a place to rest and recuperate, and the people who come out of the shattered heaven's depths also need a place to sell the treasures they acquired, which is why this star city came into being." Yang Kai nodded lightly as he commented, "It's quite lively." Old Bai replied, "It's naturally lively. There are many people killing others and stealing goods every day there." "Understandable." Yang Kai nodded. "Let's go and have a look." Old Bai frowned and said, "We can always watch the liveliness later, but we don't know how Proprietress is doing right now. We should prioritize finding her." Yang Kai, however, patted his shoulder and shook his head. "Believe me, I'm just as concerned as you are about Proprietress' situation, but you don't even know how she and the others disappeared or where she is trapped, so even if you go there, what would you do? Going to this star city first is not to watch the commotion, but to wait for those people to come to us." After hearing this, Old Bai hesitantly said, "You mean?" Yang Kai confirmed, "Those people lured me to come to Shattered Heaven. Now that I'm here, it's time for them to get down to business and do what they have planned to do. At the very least, we should be able to find out about the Proprietress's current location and situation." After giving it a thought, Bai Qi realized that Yang Kai was right, so he nodded in agreement. Following that, they moved into the lawless Star City. Not only was this place chaotic, but the buildings were also built in a haphazard fashion. There were some people who had gotten into scuffles on the streets, and the stains of blood on the ground suggested that many lives were lost here. As Yang Kai silently scanned his surroundings, he was horrified to learn that the cultivators moving around this damned place were mostly open heaven realm masters. There were rarely any cultivators like him who hadn't ascended to the open heaven realm. After pondering on it for a moment, though, he realized that Shattered Heaven was a truly dangerous place, so no weak cultivators were able to venture into this area. Being an open heaven realm master was probably the minimum requirement. Furthermore, most open heaven realm masters here looked destitute, which explained why they took a huge risk to look for opportunities in this dangerous place. Yang Kai was a half-step open heaven realm master who was followed by Zhu Jiuyin, Yu He, and the other strong cultivators, so this group of people looked rather conspicuous in this city. The people who could make a living here were all cultivators with sharp vision, so they were able to easily tell that it was difficult to deal with Zhu Jiuyin and the others. Therefore, even though many people had their eyes on them, no one dared to go anywhere near them. Whenever Yang Kai and the others went, there seemed to be a pair of invisible hands that separated the onlookers. "Some people are secretly paying attention to us," Zhu Jiuyin said in a small voice all of a sudden. Yang Kai replied with a smile, "That's expected. It'd be strange if no one is paying attention to us." Upon seeing a restaurant, Yang Kai led all of them inside. People from all walks of life had gathered together in the restaurant, and it was quite bustling, with shop hands running around with their backs soaked in sweat. The shopkeeper looked grumpy and had ugly facial features, but he was truly powerful as he was a fifth-order open heaven realm master. After getting a private room, Yang Kai's group ordered some signature dishes before sitting down and waiting. Soon, the dishes and bottles of wine were served. Even though they were delectable, no one started eating as Yang Kai just sat with his eyes closed, waiting. Since he hadn't made a move, he and the others would naturally stay still. On the other hand, Bai Qi kept squirming as though he was sitting on pins and needles. It had been half a year since the proprietress got into trouble, but they hadn't found out her whereabouts until now, so he was expected to be apprehensive. Just 1 hour later, Zhu Jiuyin suddenly took a look at Yang Kai, who seemed to have noticed it as well and opened his eyes. Zhu Jiuyin said impassively, "He's here." Yang Kai gently let out a breath and replied, "Good." Even though he had comforted Bai Qi earlier, he wasn't confident that the mastermind would show up to see him here. His plan was that if no one showed up after a day, he could only ask Bai Qi to lead them to the place where the proprietress got into trouble. Then they'd search for her slowly. Now, it seemed that his speculation was right. Since he had come to shattered heaven as he was told, the mastermind was supposed to show up and reveal his intentions. Next, they heard a series of footsteps as some people were coming upstairs in a calm manner. Before they even arrived, a disturbing aura started permeating the place. Yang Kai frowned and snorted, "They're from myriad demons' heaven." He was certain that the aura was demon chi as he was familiar with it. After the 100 Sects Alliance invaded Voidland, Yang Kai found out that myriad demons' heaven was the culprit behind the siege. Now, the mastermind behind the incident this time was also from that great force, so it seemed that the feud between them was bound to worsen. A moment later, the door was pushed open from the outside. Yang Kai looked up and saw 2 figures stepping into the private room. As expected, they were from myriad demons' heaven as they were engulfed in black demon chi, which undulated and concealed their faces. However, Yang Kai had a feeling that the person at the front was the same high-rank Open Heaven Realm Master who had appeared in Voidland previously. At the moment, this man was followed by another Open Heaven Realm Master, but this person's aura suggested that he was only in the 5th order. Faced with such formidable enemies, he and the others immediately rose from the chairs and stood behind Yang Kai to protect him. On the other hand, Zhu Jiuyin remained seated in a dispassionate manner, as though she hadn't seen the people who came in. Even though the person at the front was covered in demon chi, Yang Kai could clearly sense that the other party was examining him with a pair of piercing eyes. An unafraid Yang Kai stared back at him, but the next instant he felt the person's demon chi turning into a swirl and sucking his soul into it. It was totally beyond Yang Kai's control as he felt his eyes burning all of a sudden. The demon eye of annihilation on his left and the black purgatory eye on his right revealed themselves. At that moment, his golden eye was bright while his black eye was pitch black. Just then, Zhu Jiuyin gently flicked the wine glass in front of her. Following a clang, a ripple spread around in Yang Kai's mind like a glimmer of light that tore apart the darkness, extricating him from that strange state. Yang Kai hurriedly looked down and closed his eyes, which felt like they were burning. "I respect you as a guest, but if you dare to make a scene, don't blame this queen for becoming rude with you." Zhu Jiuyin gave him a warning impassively. The high-rank Open Heaven Realm Master from Myriad Demons Heaven put on a smile and cupped his fist. "Myriad Demons Heaven, Tizheng greets Senior Sister Zhu. The reason I did some probing just now was that I had some doubts, so I hope that you'll forgive me." Even though he was covered in eerie demon chi, he was rather polite when he spoke, unlike how haughty he was in Voidland previously. It seemed he wouldn't dare to be presumptuous in front of a divine spirit. After all, he had suffered a setback because of Zhu Jiuyin back then. Zhu Jiuyin snorted. Then Tizheng turned to look at Yang Kai and nodded gently. "The last time we met, this monarch was curious about why you exuded an aura that was supposed to be exclusive to Myriad Demons Heaven. Now, it seems to be the case. Demon Eye of Annihilation and Black Purgatory Eye. Haha. These two are very abstruse secret techniques from our great force that are never taught to outsiders. Even within Myriad Demons Heaven, rarely anyone has successfully cultivated one of the 2 secret techniques, let alone mastered both. Where did you learn these secret techniques?" Yang Kai was slightly taken aback, but he didn't let his emotions show on his face and simply replied, "I don't know what you're talking about. His 2 secret techniques came from great demon god Mo Sheng. When Mo Sheng's physical body was destroyed in the past, his eyes were cast into the void and wound up far, far away. As time passed, they gained their own sentience and life. One of them became the great demon god of Tongxian realm, while the other became a one-eyed giant monster. There came an opportunity for Yang Kai as he obtained the demon eye of annihilation first, followed by the black purgatory eye, which was how he mastered both eye secret techniques. The moment Yang Kai found out that there was a myriad demons heaven in the 3,000 worlds, he warned himself to be cautious if he came across anyone from that great force, so that his secrets wouldn't be exposed. Those from that great force might not be aware that Mo Sheng eventually lost his life in the star boundary, but if he showcased the two eye secret techniques from Great Demon God, it would catch the attention of those from that great force. In fact, Yang Kai had been cautious enough as he rarely used these eye secret techniques. He hadn't expected that Tizhang had already noticed them when he came to Void Land previously. Upon some probing this time, he easily found out Yang Kai's secrets. Both the Demon Eye of Annihilation and Black Purgatory Eye were secret techniques that came from myriad demons heaven, so the other party's understanding of the two eye secret techniques must be far greater than Yang Kai's. As such, he was unable to resist Tizhang's inspection. With a faint smile, Tizhang took a seat and said, "It's pointless for you to deny it, as the characteristics of these two eye secret techniques are too conspicuous. Even though this monarch has never cultivated them, there are a number of people in our great force who have mastered these secret techniques. That's why I can easily recognize them. However, there's something I don't understand. You're not a disciple from our great force, so how did you get to learn these techniques?" Over the years, only a small number of the disciples from our great force have had the aptitude to learn these secret techniques, and they're also the most talented people in Myriad Demons Heaven. After he finished speaking, the demon chi around him dissipated and revealed his face. As he stared fixedly at Yang Kai's eyes, he licked his lips and said, "This monarch is interested in your eyes. Why don't you sell them to me? I'll offer a reasonable price." Yang Kai asked impassively, "I'm interested in your head as well. Are you going to sell it to me?" Tizhang grinned. "You're pretty bold. However, even though you have these secret techniques, you're unable to fully activate their powers without the core secret art. Furthermore, you're not a disciple from our great force. It'd be a waste if you hold onto these eyes of yours. That's none of your business." Yang Kai shook his head. Tizhang examined him and also shook his head. "What a shame. This monarch is not going to force you since you're not willing to sell your eyes. In any case, I'll be fine with it if you join our great force." Yang Kai arched his brow. "Oh? Are you trying to recruit me?" Tizhang replied seriously, "Yes, but it's because I don't want the two eye secret techniques from our great force to go to waste." A curious Yang Kai asked, "What are the benefits I will get if I join Myriad Demons Heaven?" Tizhang said, "You'll never have to worry about putting food on the table again, and all your trouble will be gone. This monarch can give you everything you want, as long as you make a heart demon oath and start working for me from now on." "Everything?" Yang Kai raised his brow. "Does it include a high rank in element treasure?" "If you want, this monarch can give it to you," Tizhang said with a smile. "That's attractive, but your conditions are too harsh. I'm not used to being subservient to anyone." There seemed to be a look of regret on Tizhang's face. "I wanted to lead you to a bright future, but you wouldn't appreciate my kindness. Despite the fact that you have two great eyes, you're no different from a blind man. How pitiful." Yang Kai snorted, "Enough nonsense. You told me to come to the Shattered Heaven, and I'm here now. Where's my proprietress?" Tizhang asked, "Are you talking about the woman named Lan Yu Rua?" "Stop asking the obvious." Well, Tizhang smiled and fished out a jade slip before pushing it towards Yang Kai. "She's in this place now. Do you have the guts to go there?" Yang Kai frowned as Tizhang readily revealed the proprietress' whereabouts, so he wasn't sure if he should believe him. Then he gave Zhu Jiu a signal with his eyes, whereupon the woman picked up the jade slip and examined it. Then, she nodded at Yang Kai to mean that there was nothing wrong with it. It was then Yang Kai picked up the jade slip and infused his divine sense into it. With a frown, he gazed at Tizhang and asked, "How would I know if you're telling the truth? It's up to you whether you want to believe me." Tizhang grinned and rose from the chair, then cupped his fist to Zhu Jiu. "I'm sorry for disturbing you, senior sister Zhu." Following that, he turned around and nonchalantly left. After he was gone, Bai Qi asked anxiously, "Where's proprietress now?" Yang Kai replied, "Have a look." Then he passed the jade slip to him. After scanning the jade slip, Bai Qi furrowed his brow. Shadowless Cave Heaven? The jade slip indeed contained the proprietress' whereabouts, but it was actually a universe cave heaven called Shadowless Cave Heaven, which was just as powerful as Blood Monster Cave Heaven. Both of them were universe cave heavens left behind by 8th Order Open Heaven Realm Masters after they passed away. Old Bai, do you think we can believe the information in this jade slip? Yang Kai asked. Bai Qi replied, it's likely to be true. The location marked in this jade slip was where proprietress and the others disappeared back then. It explains why they went missing if they really fell into a universe cave heaven. However, I've never heard of Shadowless Cave Heaven before. Yuhi said, it's rumored that many high-rank Open Heaven Realm Masters lost their lives in the Shattered Heaven. After they died, they left behind many universe cave heavens and universe paradises. So, it's expected that you've never heard of it. But what? Yang Kai turned to look at her. Universe cave heavens and universe paradises are usually sealed off from the outside world. No one can find entrances unless they're extremely lucky. Since those people could make Big Sister Lan fall into this shadowless cave heaven, it probably means that they already have control over its entrance. As Yang Kai suddenly thought of something and narrowed his eyes as he asked, Old Bai, you said that the reason proprietress came to the Shattered Heaven was that she was looking for a high-rank element treasure for me. How did you all get wind of it? Did you find out about it yourselves? Bai Qi replied, it was proprietress who somehow got word of it. Do you think someone deliberately leaked news of a high-rank element treasure to lure proprietress into the trap that sent her into the Shadowless Cave Heaven? Yang Kai snorted, I don't think it was a coincidence. It seems that they've really discovered a portal into the Shadowless Cave Heaven. At the very least, they know how to enter it. The heritages of the cave heavens and paradises were all extremely rich, so it wasn't odd that they could control the entrance to the Shadowless Cave Heaven. And it also wasn't difficult for them to use it to trap the proprietress and lure Yang Kai to the Shattered Heaven. In that case, are you still going? Zhu Jiuyin shot Yang Kai with a dispassionate glance. The reason they generously told you the location must be that they've set up a trap. Even if this queen goes with you, I can't necessarily ensure your safety. You'll probably lose your life there. Yang Kai pursed his lips and said, I was ready for that before I came here. There's no turning back now. Regardless of how dangerous the road ahead of us is, I have to move forward. Zhu Jiuyin stared intently at him and said calmly, Don't worry. If you lose your life there, I'll at least bury your corpse. And offended you, he glared at her. Let's go. I'm eager to find out what kind of an amazing trap they've set up for me. Yang Kai rose from his seat without hesitation. After shuffling out of the restaurant, they headed for the Star City's exit. Yang Kai sported a solemn expression as he was worried about the proprietress. Countless ideas flashed through his mind as he pondered on the circumstances that he might come across, but a moment later he realized that someone was staring at him. As their eyes met, Yang Kai became startled for a moment. There was a middle-aged man across the street who had a look of disbelief on his face. It seemed that he hadn't expected to bump into Yang Kai in this place. Following that, a sense of resentment rose within this man and his eyes seemed able to spurt endless wrath and hatred. His expression suggested that he was eager to skin Yang Kai alive and drink his blood. However, as soon as he noticed the people around Yang Kai, he knitted his brow. Even though the auras of Zhu Jiuyin and the others were concealed, it was apparent to this man that it would be difficult to deal with them. Given his power now, he was unable to kill Yang Kai to get his revenge. As he darted his gaze around, he shot towards the Star City's exit. Follow him! Yang Kai yelled and chased after the man. Despite the fact that Zhu Jiuyin and the others had no idea what was going on, they still promptly followed Yang Kai. After leaving the Star City, they looked up and saw a ray of light shooting towards the depths of the void. Chu Huashan quickly summoned her flight-type artifact, after which they boarded and raced after him. A puzzled Zhu Jiuyin asked, Brat, who is that guy? Give me a moment to think. Yang Kai frowned without answering her question. Innumerable memories flashed across his mind, and just a moment later, he seemed to have figured out something. I got it. An impatient Zhu Jiuyin asked, What do you mean? Yang Kai grinned. We might be able to recruit some helpers. Bai Qi asked curiously, Helpers? All of them looked at him in puzzlement as they didn't understand why he was chasing after someone unrelated to the matter instead of heading straight to the proprietress location. After letting out a breath, Yang Kai gazed at Chu Huashang and asked, "Do you remember Abundant City, Senior Sister Chu?" Chu Huashang replied with a smile, "Of course I do. We were even held captive together there. Aren't those people living in Voidland now?" She had frequently visited Voidland over the years, so she had seen Mo Mei and the others a number of times. When she and Yang Kai were held captive in Abundant City, they had met Mo Mei and the other inhabitants of the city and found out about their situations. The ancestors of Abundant City were implanted with a blood principle restriction by Blood Monster Divine Monarch, so their descendants had to live in Blood Monster Cave Heaven for their entire lives. Without the nourishment from the Cave Heaven's aura, they would immediately lose their lives. Back then, I joined forces with Black Crow Divine Monarch and obtained a secret technique that could resolve the blood principle restriction. After the collapse of Blood Monster Cave Heaven, I managed to return to Abundant City in time and brought Mo Mei and the others out, eventually bringing them to settle in Voidland. However, when we were still captives, there was an elder from Abundant City who tried to kill me. Do you remember that, Senior Sister Chu? After giving it a thought, Chu Huashang nodded. And he was named Tan Luoxing, right? It's no wonder I found that man familiar just now. When Tan Luoxing saw the wooden token given to Yang Kai by the proprietress in the past, he attempted to kill him outright. However, Tan Luoxing failed miserably and soon after forcefully opened the city's defensive grand array and fled as he was worried that he would get punished. After that, Golden Gorilla King stormed into Abundant City and made a scene. The person Yang Kai came across just now was Tan Luoxing, who had fled from Abundant City. After finishing her words, Chu Huashang asked in perplexement, "There's something I don't understand, Junior Brother Yang. Tan Luoxing fled pretty early on, so he supposedly shouldn't have survived. After the Blood Monster Cave Heaven collapsed, all the cultivators in that place must have passed away except for the ones from Abundant City that you managed to save." Yang Kai said with a smile, "The only possibility is that his blood principle restriction was also removed. But who could have helped?" Before Chu Huashang finished her words, her gaze brightened as she figured everything out. Yang Kai went on to say, "That's right. There's one more person who can resolve the blood principle restriction other than me." Chu Huashang completed his sentence, Black Crow Divine Monarch. Yang Kai chuckled, he's really something. He had killed many disciples from the Cave Heavens and Paradises in Blood Monster Cave Heaven. After the collapse of Blood Monster Cave Heaven, all of the Cave Heavens and Paradises got wind of Black Crow Divine Monarch and began hunting him down. Initially, I thought that he must have lost his life in the Blood Monster territory. Now, it seems that not only is he still alive and kicking, but he's also come to the Shattered Heaven. After a moment of deliberation, Yang Kai nodded. "I'm sure he's in the Shattered Heaven now. His life must be worse than mine since he's being actively hunted down by the Cave Heavens and Paradises. There's nowhere in the 3,000 worlds that he can go except for the Shattered Heaven where there's nothing but chaos," he tutade. "Did you notice, Senior Sister Chu? Tan Luoxing is also an Open Heaven Realm Master now." Chu Huashang nodded. Fifth Order. Yang Kai went on to say, "There was no way Black Crow Divine Monarch would help Tan Luoxing resolve his blood principle restriction out of kindness. He was aware that he was on his own, so he had to recruit some subordinates. As a Fifth Order Open Heaven Realm Master, Tan Luoxing is powerful enough to be used as a pawn. Moreover, in the Blood Monster Cave Heaven, Abundant City alone was able to produce so many Open Heaven Realm Masters. What about other cities? If my speculation is right, Black Crow Divine Monarch must have amassed a lot of helpers who are in the Fifth Order and Sixth Order Open Heaven Realm. After all, Black Crow Divine Monarch was a former high-rank Open Heaven Realm Master, reborn after seizing someone else's body. Since Black Crow Divine Monarch possessed the necessary secret technique to resolve the blood principle restriction, it would be easy for him to enslave some people when the Blood Monster Cave Heaven began to collapse. Since Yang Kai was able to save the people from Abundant City at that time, Black Crow Divine Monarch could naturally do something similar. The fact that Tan Luoxing was still alive was the best proof. Moreover, he said, "Tan Luoxing seems to be luring us somewhere, young master." Yang Kai said, He's completely resentful of me. After his failed attempt to kill me back then, he was forced to flee Abundant City and became homeless. When he saw me in the Star City just now, he wouldn't dare to make a move as all of you were around me. However, if he can lure us to the place where his companions gather together, he can join forces with them and get his revenge. Chu Huashang remarked, "That must be the place where Black Crow Divine Monarch resides." Yang Kai nodded. "You're right. He's trying to make use of Black Crow Divine Monarch's power to deal with us." Even though there were only a small number of people with Yang Kai, they were obviously all-powerful masters. Since Tan Luoxing had the guts to lure them to that place, it meant that Black Crow Divine Monarch must have amassed a lot of subordinates, and he believed that the Divine Monarch was able to deal with Yang Kai and the others. Otherwise, he wouldn't have made such a decision. Zhu Jiuyin warned him by saying, "Are you trying to make use of that Black Crow Divine Monarch's power? Be careful, as you might go for wool and come back shorn." Chu Huashang said, "You should really think twice about it, junior brother. I remember that you made Black Crow Divine Monarch suffer a huge loss in the Blood Monster Cave Heaven. So he also abhors you. The reason Black Crow is resentful of me is that I ruined his plan to refine the Blood Monster Cave Heaven. Now that the Blood Monster Cave Heaven is no longer around, it's useless for him to keep on hating me." On the other hand, those from the cave heavens and paradises hunted him in the blood monster territory, and even though he escaped from that great territory in the end, he was forced to live miserably in the shattered heaven. I believe that if there's a chance, he won't mind retaliating against those people. Back then, Black Crow Divine Monarch was trying to refine the blood monster cave heaven. If he had succeeded, the life or death of all the people in the blood monster cave heaven would have fallen into his hands. Unfortunately, Yang Kai foiled his plans at the critical moment. This was indeed an unresolvable feud. However, fighting back in order to survive as Yang Kai had done, and the active hunt to exterminate him by the cave heavens and paradises were not equal in weight. Yang Kai had ruined his plan while those from cave heavens and paradises wanted to kill him, so both of these parties were also his enemies. With that said, it was more difficult to deal with the cave heavens and paradises in comparison. Black Crow Divine Monarch must be fully aware of that, which was why he had hidden himself in the shattered heaven. It was said that the enemy of an enemy was a friend. Perhaps they could join forces over this matter temporarily. As for their feud, they could settle it at a later date. Black Crow Divine Monarch had lived for a long time, so he must be able to see the big picture. Regardless, we have to meet him first. Maybe we'll get what we want, but even if we don't, we won't suffer any losses. Since Yang Kai had made a decision, the others were not in any place to say otherwise, especially Chu Huashang. After all, she was a disciple from Inyang Cave Heaven that was also involved in hunting down Black Crow Divine Monarch. As they raced after the ray of light, they moved forward at full speed. Broken spirit provinces were scattered everywhere in the shattered heaven. There was no vitality in these spirit provinces, and their world principles were long gone. These shattered spirit provinces were supposed to be parts of universe worlds in the shattered heaven, but after the epic war in the past, the neighboring great territories were all broken, and their universe worlds were destroyed, leaving behind only remnants. On a certain small spirit province, many figures had concealed themselves while there were some strong cultivators who stood guard around the periphery. All of a sudden, a shriek was heard coming from the deepest part of the spirit province, which sent a chill down everyone's spine. The mid-rank open heaven realm masters who stood guard shuddered upon hearing that as they mourned for the lost life. These people were cultivators who were born and bred in the blood monster cave heaven. When the blood monster cave heaven broke apart, they were found by a person called Black Crow Divine Monarch, who helped resolve the blood principle restriction in their bodies and brought them away. Initially, they thought that they could finally break free from the cage that had confined their ancestors in them and start a new life. However, no one could have expected that it was just the beginning of their nightmare. They were still half-step open heaven realm masters when they left the blood monster cave heaven, but Black Crow Divine Monarch gave them resources and helped them ascend to the open heaven realm in a short period of time. Due to years of accumulation and Black Crow Divine Monarch's help, they were able to ascend to the 4th order at minimum. Many of them were in the 5th order, while there were a small number of 6th order open heaven realm masters among them. Very few lost their lives when breaking through. Following that, Black Crow Divine Monarch led them all the way to shattered heaven. Due to the fact that Black Crow Divine Monarch loved drinking human blood, he would need an open heaven realm master to use as blood food from time to time. The shattered heaven was a chaotic and lawless place, where countless lives were lost every day. As a formidable force like them wandered around, they could wait for the right targets and make a move at the right time. There were many unlucky open heaven realm masters who were captured by them and brought to this place to be served as blood sacrifices for Black Crow Divine Monarch. However, even though they were powerful, there were times when they were not lucky enough to find any target. For a time like this, Black Crow Divine Monarch would choose one of them to be his blood sacrifice. Initially, there were 35 people who had left the Blood Monster territory with Black Crow Divine Monarch, but after just 3 years, only a little more than 20 of them were left. Those who were gone didn't lose their lives in battle, but instead had their blood essence sucked dry by Black Crow Divine Monarch. Luck wasn't on their side recently, as they couldn't capture anyone to serve as blood food. So as soon as they heard the shriek, they knew that one of their companions had perished. Now, their life or death was basically in Black Crow Divine Monarch's hands. Although some of them were stronger than him, none of them dared to rebel. If this went on, all of them would be killed by Black Crow Divine Monarch in a few years. Nevertheless, there was nothing they could do. When Black Crow resolved the blood principle restriction for them, he also left something in their bodies which ensured that they wouldn't be able to break free from his control even after they advanced to the open heaven realm. The shrieks didn't last for a long time. After slightly more than 10 breaths' time, the voice weakened. The open heaven realm masters on the spirit province sported in different expressions as they were already used to this. All of a sudden, someone exclaimed, "Someone is coming!" The people who were responsible for standing guard immediately looked around and saw a ray of light approaching them at high speed, and they quickly put their guard up. However, just a moment later, someone recognized the person who was approaching and shouted, "Don't panic. It's Tan Luo Xing." As expected, Tan Xing Lu appeared within everyone's sight just a while later. But before he even reached them, he exclaimed, "Hide yourselves! There are some new blood sacrifices following me." Upon hearing that, all of them became energized as they used their secret techniques to conceal their auras and figures. They had been extremely unlucky recently as they were unable to capture any blood sacrifice at all. They had just lost another companion, and no one knew who the next among them would be. Therefore, when they heard that some blood sacrifices were following Tan Luo Xing, they quickly got prepared. As long as they could catch those blood sacrifices, they would be safe in a short period of time. On the other hand, upon informing his companions about it, Tan Luo Xing shot towards the deepest part of the spirit province. Just a moment later, he arrived at a collapsed grand hall that was protected by powerful cultivators in all directions. However, all of them looked as pale as white sheets now. In the middle of the grand hall stood a figure that was engulfed in blood mist. For some reason, he was trembling violently, and the blood mist around him contracted and expanded irregularly. There was a withered corpse lying on the ground in front of this figure. The corpse didn't contain any moisture, as though it had been left in the burning sun for countless years. His skin was horrendously pale, and all his blood essence was gone. He must have gone through a terrifying experience before his death. His hollow eyes almost popped out, and horror was written all over his shriveled face. Tan Luo Xing took a glance at the corpse and instantly recognized his identity. Just a few days ago, he had chatted with this man over some casual topics, so it never crossed his mind that after he returned from the Star City in the Shattered Heaven, the other party would already be dead. Still, he quickly retracted his gaze and called out, "Divine Monarch!" All of a sudden, the figure covered in blood mist extended his hand and slapped Tan Luo Xing. The slap was so forceful that he flipped over several times in the air, and when he landed on the ground, half of his face was swollen up while several of his teeth were broken. "How dare you disturb this monarch when I'm having my meal? Is it your first day working for me? Or do you also want to be my blood food today?" Black Crow Divine Monarch's grim voice was heard coming from the weltering blood mist. Tan Luo Xing shuddered and fell on all fours as he pleaded, "Please forgive me, Divine Monarch. Please forgive me. I know I've made a mistake. Please don't kill me." Black Crow roared like he was an injured beast. His eyes were bloodshot as he said through clenched teeth, "Old dog blood monster. You still taunt this monarch even after your death. What did you do to the grand evolution immortal blood light scripture? Damn you! It wasn't until Black Crow fled from the blood monster territory and arrived at the shattered heaven that he realized there was something wrong with the scripture that he had cultivated. That was because after he ascended to the open heaven realm, he had to look for suitable blood sacrifices from time to time and swallow all their blood essence. Otherwise, he would be at risk of self-detonation. Even though the learner of the scripture was supposed to consume others' blood essence to increase their power, there was a difference between doing it proactively and being forced to do it. He had a speculation that the scripture he had obtained was tampered with by blood monster divine monarch, which was why he had fallen into such a state. Whenever he needed a blood sacrifice, he would feel unbearably itchy as though countless cats were scratching his soul. He was unable to control his emotions as he'd become highly irritable. Then, he turned his head and stared fixedly at Tan Luoxing. Why did you disturb this monarch? If you can't provide a good reason, I'll devour you immediately. Tan Luoxing became horrified as he knew that Black Crow wasn't pulling his leg. If he couldn't come up with a satisfactory reply, he would lose his life the next instant. Not daring to be negligent, he pressed his head against the ground and said in a shaking voice, I found Xianxia in the Star City. Xianxia? Black Crow Divine Monarch became startled for a moment. Then the blood mist around him exploded as he shot towards Tan Luoxing and yanked him up before saying through gritted teeth, Are you talking about that damn brat who ruined this monarch's plan back in Blood Monster Cave Heaven? Where's he? If Xianxia hadn't foiled his plan, he wouldn't have fallen into such a state. At that time, as long as he could refine the Blood Monster Cave Heaven and make use of its resources, he could wait until he recovered his strength before leaving. By then, he could go anywhere he pleased instead of hiding from his enemies in this place. Tan Luoxing quickly said, I've lured him to this place. He'll be here soon. Upon hearing that, Black Crow was elated. Good, very good. That brat ruined this monarch's plans in the Blood Monster Cave Heaven. I've been wanting to get my revenge, but I didn't know where he was. Now that he dares to show up in the shattered heaven, he's basically stepping right into his grave. This monarch will definitely catch and kill him. After he finished speaking, he gently put down Tan Luoxing and said with a mild expression, You've done well. After getting a compliment, Tan Luoxing put on a fawning smile, It's my duty to help solve your problems, Divine Monarch. However, Xianxia is followed by some open heaven realm masters this time. I couldn't see through their strength as they were concealing their auras, but I don't think they're pushovers. Black Crow sneered. I was worried that they would be too weak. To this monarch, the more powerful a blood sacrifice is, the better they'll taste. As he spoke, he suddenly turned to look in a particular direction. Apparently, he had sensed something. At the same time, explosive sounds were heard as world force undulated. There was also an aura that was extraordinarily powerful and eerie. Obviously, the people who were responsible for standing guard had engaged Xianxia in battle. A divine spirit. Black Crow turned pale and widened his eyes in disbelief. Why was there a divine spirit following Xianxia around? Moreover, judging from the divine spirit's energy fluctuations, she should be a mature one. In other words, she was at least as strong as a 7th Order Open Heaven Realm Master. Black Crow's expression darkened instantly. To him, there was no doubt that a powerful blood sacrifice would taste better and be more beneficial to him. Still, he had to be wary of a mature divine spirit. Even though he had many strong cultivators in the 5th Order and 6th Order Open Heaven Realm who worked for him, they would be useless when faced against such a foe. Despite his wariness, he wasn't afraid. More than 20 mid-rank Open Heaven Realm Masters were a force to be reckoned with. If they got into a life-and-death battle with this divine spirit, both parties would likely be equally matched. While he was pondering on whether he should fight or retreat, he heard someone speaking to him, Black Crow, your friend has come all the way here to see you. Why don't you let me in? Upon hearing that voice, Black Crow immediately had the urge to kill. That was the voice of the accursed brat who had repeatedly ruined his plans in the Blood Monster Cave Heaven. First, he failed to seize Xianxia's body and had to settle for an inferior one. Then he foiled his plans to refine the Blood Monster Divine Palace, leading to the collapse of the Blood Monster Cave Heaven, which forced him to flee to the Shattered Heaven. Xianxia was the cause of all of his misery. Whenever Black Crow thought of that brat, he was eager to skin him alive and drink his blood. In fact, He had secretly made an oath that as soon as he returned to his peak, he would scour the 3,000 worlds to look for this boy and let him taste the cruelest torture imaginable. However, it never crossed Black Crow's mind that they'd meet again so soon. As he narrowed his bloodshot eyes, he raised his arm and bellowed, "Let them in!" Black Crow was fully aware of his subordinate's strength. Since Xianxia had a divine spirit with him, there was no way his blood slaves could stop him. In that case, he decided to directly let them in. He wanted to find out why Xianxia had come all the way to the shattered heaven to look for him. The battle ended as the explosive sounds died down. Soon enough, under the attention of many mid-rank open realm masters, Xianxia led Yuhi, Zhu Jioyin, and the others to barge into the place and walked up to Black Crow. Shwa shwa shwa. The cultivators who were hidden earlier flew over from all directions and surrounded Xianxia and his group. At this moment, nearly 30 mid-rank open realm masters had gathered together in this small spirit province. There was also the divine spirit heavenly moon demon spider. People who had no idea what was going on would be shaken to the core if they saw such a powerful group. As their eyes met, Xianxia smiled and saluted in a friendly manner. "Good to see you again, Black Crow. Who could have thought that we'd reunite in this place?" Black Crow's eyes seemed able to spit fire as he snarled. "Quit being so presumptuous. How do you call this monarch by his name?" Xianxia replied with a smile, "It's just a name. Please don't mind it, divine monarch." Black Crow snorted, "Stinking brat, you ruined this monarch's plans in the blood monster cave heaven, yet you still have the gall to show up in front of me? Do you think I can't do anything to you just because you have a divine spirit to protect you?" Then he lifted both arms and put on a smug smile. "Do you see it now? I have many powerful subordinates with me. As soon as I give the order, they'll kill you." Xianxia spoke up with an amiable expression. "I believe that you're capable of doing that. However, it's pointless for you to kill me now. The blood monster cave heaven is gone and you're currently being hunted down by the cave heavens and paradises. I believe that life has been terrible for you in the shattered heaven. Am I right?" At the mention of this, Black Crow became even more infuriated. If you hadn't interfered, this monarch wouldn't have fallen into such a miserable state. If he had managed to refine the blood monster divine palace, he could have taken control of the blood monster cave heaven and made use of the resources left behind by blood monster divine monarch to restore his strength while remaining hidden from the world rather than being forced to flee and getting hunted down. "I was forced to do that, divine monarch. If you had really refined the blood monster divine palace, I would have died. In order to survive, I had to oppose you at that time," Xianxia said with a smile, as though he wasn't the one who did that back then. Black Crow barked, "What do you want, boy? Have you come all the way here just to annoy me? In that case, this monarch will never let you off." "Of course not." Xianxia shook his head and said solemnly, "I'm here to join forces with you." Black Crow gawked for a moment before growling, "Are you saying that you want to join forces with this monarch? Did you fumble your words? Or did I mishear you?" Xianxia replied, "You didn't mishear me, nor did I speak wrongly." Black Crow looked around and laughed in a maniacal manner. His laugh reverberated across the entire spirit province. A moment later, he stopped laughing and snorted, "Even though this monarch has no idea what your intentions are, I know that you've not some kind-hearted saint. Scram while I'm still in a good mood, otherwise all of you have to lose your lives here." Xianxia stared at him and shook his head. "You haven't even asked about what I want to join forces with you for, divine monarch. Why are you in a rush to chase me away?" Black Crow scoffed. "If possible, you're the first one this monarch would kill. Are you taunting me by telling me to work with you? Who do you think you are? Do you even have a right to join forces with me?" Ignoring his mockery, Xianxia went on to say, "You had no choice but to flee from the blood monster territory and hide in this broken spirit province because of those from the cave heavens and paradises. Don't you want to get your revenge?" Black Crow stared at him with narrowed eyes as a dangerous glint flashed through his gaze. It was as though he was pondering on whether he should attack Xianxia here and now. Certainly, he had no regard for the latter whatsoever. When he was in the blood monster cave heaven back then, he had just taken over someone else's body, so he was only able to exert a fraction of his true power. That was the reason Xianxia was able to repeatedly foil his plans. But now, he was already a fifth-order realm master while Xianxia was still just a half-step open heaven realm cultivator. They were not even comparable anymore. However, he was wary of the divine spirit. With this divine spirit's protection, it would be unrealistic for him to kill Yang Kai even though he had many strong subordinates with him. You hold some grudges against those from the cave heavens and paradises, and it's the same case for me, Yang Kai continued. Since we have common foes, why don't you join forces with me? Black Crow's interest had been piqued as he asked. Why is there a feud between you and those from the cave heavens and paradises? Yang Kai explained, that's because I want to directly break through to the high-rank open heaven realm, and it seems to have affected some people's interests, so I've been targeted by them. In fact, I was lured to this place, and there is a trap waiting for me in the depths of the shattered heaven. Understanding now, Black Crow nodded faintly. As expected, you really want to ascend to the high-rank open heaven realm directly. It's no wonder that the cave heavens and paradises won't let you off. If I were them, I wouldn't let you achieve your goal either. However, since you're aware that it's a trap, why are you still going straight into it? There's a reason I must go, but I'm not going to tell you about it. It's a coincidence that we've come across each other here. I didn't deliberately look for you. Black Crow turned to look at Tan Luoxing and reckoned that the latter must have exposed his whereabouts by being followed. Faced with Black Crow's deathly stare, Tan Luoxing was instantly drenched in cold sweat. Black Crow snorted. Since those from the cave heavens and paradises have set up a trap for you, it'll be useless regardless of how many people you bring with you. This monarch isn't a fool, so why would I decide to perish together with you? You're wrong, divine monarch. Yang Kai shook his head. If all 36 cave heavens and 72 paradises had joined forces, there's no way I would survive, and even trying to resist would be pointless. However, we're only going to deal with some of them here, so they can't possibly summon a large number of their strongest cultivators. They are currently targeting me and the people around me, so if you seize the chance and make a move now, they won't be able to counterattack. Since you have so many powerful cultivators with you, don't you want to deal a heavy blow to them? While Black Crow was contemplating it with a frown, Yang Kai just stared silently at him without urging. A moment later, Black Crow sneered. Regardless of what you say, this monarch will not believe even one word from your wicked mouth. I indeed hold some grudges against the cave heavens and paradises, and I'll storm into their headquarters someday, kill all of their disciples and destroy their inheritances that have been accumulated over so many years. However, I also very much want to see you dead. Ha ha ha. You want to use me to ease your burdens? You're too naive, brat. Yang Kai said with a frown. We can settle the score between us in the future, divine monarch. Such a chance is hard to come by. If you don't make a move now, you'll regret it in the future, won't you? Do you want to keep hiding in the shattered heaven forever? If they discover your whereabouts, do you think they'll let you live peacefully here? This is none of your business. Get lost now, or else I'll kill you right here. Black Crow waved his hand to chase them away. Divine monarch. While Yang Kai attempted to keep persuading him, the blood mist around Black Crow undulated as he snapped. If you don't leave within 3 breaths, you'll have to stay here forever. Following that, the 20 or so mid-rank open heaven realm masters circulated their strength. At that instant, the aura of world force permeated the broken hall. Yuhi, Chu Huashang, and Bai Qi became alarmed, with only Zhu Jiu-yin remaining impassive as she stared coldly at Black Crow Divine Monarch. A frustrated Yang Kai shot Black Crow Divine Monarch a glare and said through clenched teeth, "We're leaving." Then he turned around and swung his sleeve before walking off, seemingly quite vexed. In the blink of an eye, they left the spirit province and headed straight to the depths of the shattered heaven. It wasn't until they flew for a long time after leaving the spirit province that Yang Kai's expression turned milder as he let out a breath. To the side, Zhu Jiuyin asked, "You wanted to join forces with him?" But he didn't seem interested one bit. "What are you going to do now? Walk right into the trap like a fool?" There was a faint smile on Yang Kai's face. He wasn't interested? "I don't think so," Zhu Jiuyin said with a frown. Black Crow made his stance clear. "Are you blind or what?" Yang Kai explained. "It's exactly because he made his stance clear so quickly that I'm sure he's interested. As for whether he'll make a move, it depends on our ability to deal with the trap they've set up. If my speculation is right, Black Crow will secretly follow us, then play it by ear. If there's a chance, he'll gladly have a hand in this matter. However, if the difference in power between our enemies and us is too great, he'll stay clear of it. He's not the charitable sort. Since he has suffered such an immense setback, there's no way he won't want to get his revenge. The most important thing now is whether we can create a chance for him to make a move. Zhu Jiuyin refuted. That's just your speculation. Yang Kai nodded. That's right. It's just my speculation. Maybe Black Crow won't make any move in the end. If they couldn't use Black Crow's power, they had no choice but to face the trap in the shadowless cave heaven on their own. In any case, it was a surprise that they came across Black Crow in the shattered heaven. Yang Kai had never expected Black Crow to hide in that place, and the latter even had so many mid-rank open heaven realm masters working for him. In fact, it never crossed his mind that Black Crow had actually fled from the blood monster territory. Initially, he thought that the latter must have lost his life there. After all, every single territory gate of that place had been controlled by the cave heavens and paradises at that time, and all the cultivators who passed through gates were carefully screened. It wasn't certain what trick Black Crow had used, but not only had he managed to flee, he had even brought many people with him. This kind of old fox who had lived for countless years must never be underestimated. After giving it a thought, Yang Kai turned to look at Chu Huashang and asked, Senior Sister Chu, since you're a disciple from Inyang Cave Heaven, what kind of trap do you think those from Myriad Demons Heaven have set up in the shadowless cave heaven? Following a moment of deliberation, she replied, I know little about the information at the top level. Even though my great force did its best to gather information, we're unable to do so as we're not involved in this matter. However, high-rank open heaven realm masters are all powerful figures with supreme identities, so they won't easily make a move unless it's absolutely necessary. Senior Zhu's existence has been exposed, so if those from Myriad Demons Heaven want to set up a trap, they'll specifically target her. Moreover, Senior Zhu showcased her power in the battle in Voidland a few years ago. Therefore, I think at least 3 high-rank open heaven realm masters will be waiting outside the shadowless cave heaven. Upon hearing that, Yang Kai nodded gently. What Chu Huashang had said was the same as his speculations. Since they wanted to target Zhu Jiuyin, they'd need 3 high-rank open heaven realm masters at the very least. That was because 2 high-rank open heaven realm masters were unable to defeat Zhu Jiuyin previously. Moreover, only Myriad Demons Heaven had exposed themselves in this matter so far. The other cave heavens and paradises remained hidden. Yang Kai had no idea whether there were other players in this game apart from Myriad Demons Heaven. However, Chu Huashang was right to say that high-rank open heaven realm masters were powerful figures with superb identities, so they wouldn't easily make a move. Even if they did, they wouldn't come in large numbers. That was because they had a reputation to preserve. As the ship moved forward, Yang Kai stood on the deck and looked at the endless void while pondering on his future. Before coming to the 3,000 worlds, he would never have expected that a mere Emperor Realm Jr. like himself would be able to raise such waves one day. Now, faced with an extremely difficult trial, he realized that he was still too weak after all. When the 100 Sects Alliance invaded Voidland, he was still able to use the 9 Heavenly Layers Grand Array to play some role. Since the Array Jade was in his possession, he could make use of the Grand Array to fend off his enemies. However, he practically became useless after leaving Voidland. Initially, he wanted to make use of the Star City's development and wait for a chance to look for a high-ranking element treasure that suited him. Once he became a high-rank open heaven realm master, he would make a name for himself. However, those who had been paying attention to him thought that he was going to disrupt the order in the 3,000 worlds, so they decided to take care of him before he had a chance and lured him out of Voidland. Faced with the siege by Shen Liang, Jiang Yunshan, and Luan Baifeng, all Yang Kai could do was stay behind his companion's protection as he watched Bai Qi and Yu He fend off the enemy while he looked for a chance to flee. This ambush was just a probe to find out his true power, and the trap in the shadowless cave heaven was the real deal. Given his current strength, there was nothing Yang Kai could do even if he reached the shadowless cave heaven. Was he going to rely on Zhu Jiuyin to save the proprietress and then just run back to Voidland? Since Zhu Jiuyin's existence had been exposed, it was expected that she'd be targeted. By then, she might not even be able to protect herself, let alone save the proprietress. Which path should he follow as he stepped into the unknown? Yang Kai was a resolute man who made decisions firmly. Even if the road ahead was paved with thorns, he had to charge forward despite knowing that he'd be injured. However, at this moment he was at a loss. As the ship sailed forward, Yu-He and Bai Qi remained silent. They worriedly exchanged glances as they could sense that Yang Kai was feeling conflicted. The shattered heaven was indeed a dangerous place. As they moved forward, they would come across unknown dangers from time to time. A series of mighty fluctuations could be felt spreading from seemingly ordinary spirit provinces, and some of these fluctuations were as strong as a strike from someone in the high-rank open heaven realm. If they accidentally triggered these fluctuations, they would be turned into dust. These hidden dangers were left behind from the ancient war. Due to that great battle, countless restrictions and spirit arrays were left behind in the shattered heaven. Other than the divine abilities and secret techniques that might explode at any moment, there were also many open heaven artifacts that had gained spirituality. Fortunately, as a divine spirit, Zhu Jiuyin had sharp perception. It was thanks to her warnings that they were able to stay away from many of the dangers. With that said, she wasn't able to detect all of them. On the third day since they entered the shattered heaven, a ray of light suddenly came at their ship when they were passing by a spirit province. The ray of light contained a horrifying power. The expressions of Yu-He and Bai Qi changed drastically as they stood in front of Yang Kai, while Chu Huashang quickly drove the ship forward. At the same time, Zhu Jiuyin roared and spat out a snow-white spider web to intercept the ray of light. The ray of light was soon covered in the spider web, but just one breath of time later, it broke free and continued shooting towards the ship. Zhu Jiuyin's expression changed as she took Yang Kai's arm and flew away for several dozen kilometers. At the same time, Chu Huashang and the others also dispersed. When they looked back, they realized that the ship had already turned into dust after coming into contact with the ray of light. Meanwhile, the ray of light exposed itself. It turned out to be a blue wolf that stood in the void and stared at them. The wolf's figure flickered, so it was apparent that it wasn't a real beast. Moreover, one could see an arm-long jade scepter floating inside its body. Without stopping, the wolf turned into a ray of light again and disappeared into the depths of the shattered heaven. After they regrouped, Yu-He and the others all had pale faces. Zhu Jiuyin sported a solemn expression as she gazed at Bai Qi and asked, "Was it also this dangerous the last time you were here?" Bai Qi replied, "We didn't come across that wolf previously, however, it's a well-known fact that the shattered heaven is full of dangers. We bumped into different kinds of attacks from time to time." "What was that?" Yang Kai asked. He was the weakest among all of them, so just now he couldn't clearly see what was going on. All he saw was the wolf's figure. "It was an artifact that gained sentience," Yu-He said seriously. "It was likely the manifestation of the Jade Scepter's artifact spirit. The Jade Scepter's owner was probably an 8th Order Open Heaven Realm Master before his death. No ordinary 7th Order Open Heaven Realm Master could wield such a weapon." Yang Kai was stunned as he finally understood why the ray of light easily broke through Zhu Jiuyin's secret technique. No ordinary person could resist this kind of attack. If Zhu Jiuyin hadn't made a move, all of them would have been severely wounded. Obviously, the Jade Scepter had been hidden in that spirit province. It was triggered when Yang Kai and the others passed by this place. The shattered heaven was indeed a place full of danger, but at the same time, it was also a treasure trove. If anyone could obtain the artifact they had seen earlier, even a high-rank Open Heaven Realm Master would also see their power increase significantly. However, in order to obtain it, the person had to be in the 7th Order Open Heaven Realm at the very least. After pulling themselves together, they continued moving forward. Wherever they went, they could see that some people had gotten into fights for one reason or another. Those who could make a living in the shattered heaven were all Open Heaven Realm Masters who were ruthless. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to survive in this lawless place. They had no reservation when fighting and constantly used fatal blows. Zhu Jiuyin would spread her aura from time to time to intimidate the people who passed by or were fighting nearby, reducing the number of people who dared confront them greatly. Even so, they were still only at the periphery of the shattered heaven. What would the core of the place look like? According to Bai Qi, the core area of the shattered heaven was a place where only high-rank Open Heaven Realm Masters had a right to step into. Despite that, there was no guarantee that they would come out alive. That was the reason so many high-rank Open Heaven Realm Masters had lost their lives here over the years. When Bai Qi and Proprietress were looking for a high-ranking element treasure, they never went near the core area. She was indeed searching for the resource for Yang Kai, but she wasn't so foolish as to take such a risk. As they flew forward carefully, they were relieved that the following journey was much safer. Half a month later, they arrived at their destination following the instructions in the jade slip given to them by Tizheng. This was a quiet place in the void as spirit provinces of different sizes hovered around them. Yang Kai scanned his surroundings with the jade slip in his hand, and upon making sure that there was no mistake, he asked Bai Qi, "Is it here?" After looking around, Bai Qi nodded with a solemn expression. "That's right. It's here." Yang Kai stared at the void in front of him. They had arrived at this place following the instructions in the jade slip given by Tizheng, and Bai Qi confirmed that Proprietress had disappeared here. It meant that the entrance to the shadowless cave heaven was somewhere around this place. As long as they could find the entrance, they could enter and save her. However, this was easier said than done. The first difficulty they were facing was where to look for the entrance. The shadowless cave heaven had remained undiscovered in this place for countless years, which suggested that the entrance must be well hidden. After all, innumerable people had moved around the shattered heaven over the years. If the entrance could be found easily, the shadowless cave heaven would have been exposed by now. In reality, this universe cave heaven had essentially remained undiscovered. Only the masterminds here knew how to open up the entrance, as they had lured the Proprietress to this place and made her fall into the trap. Despite the fact that it was serene in the void, anyone could feel the hidden murderous intent. With a solemn expression, Zhu Jiuyin spoke up, "Brat, I have a bad feeling." As soon as she arrived at this place, she could feel that they were being watched over by countless pairs of eyes. After scanning the surroundings with her divine sense, she could clearly feel that many auras of living creatures had hidden themselves in the spirit provinces around them. Yang Kai said gently, "Please stand guard for me, senior." Zhu Jiuyin turned to look at him and realized that he had closed his eyes. As space principles swirled around him, it was apparent that he was looking for the entrance. Such a troublesome brat. Zhu Jiuyin snorted in disgust, but she wouldn't dare to be negligent as she paid close attention to her surroundings. At the same time, she secretly made a decision that the moment things turned south, she would immediately take Yang Kai away. It wasn't a wise choice to fight enemies in a trap set up by the other party. She wasn't a fool, so she wouldn't do such a silly thing. Now, she just had to ensure Yang Kai's safety. As for the life or death of the others, it had nothing to do with her. As space principles undulated, Yang Kai scanned the surroundings with his divine sense. The universe cave heaven was actually an independent sealed world that lingered in the void of the shattered heaven. If there was really an entrance, there would be some space principle fluctuations coming from where the two places intersected. When the blood monster cave heaven opened up in the past, Yang Kai made use of space principles to discover entrances in advance. Therefore, he believed that he could also find the entrance of the shadowless cave heaven by doing the same thing here. Even though Yang Kai was just a half-step open heaven realm master, which meant that he was the weakest among everyone here, even Zhu Jiuyin was no match for him when it came to this. There was no doubt that she was powerful, but she knew nothing about the Tao of space. The entrance of the shadowless cave heaven was well hidden, so perhaps only some slight space principle fluctuations could be felt. She couldn't sense them, but Yang Kai might be able to. As long as he could find the entrance, he could try to enter it. As he emptied his mind and carefully examined every part of the void with his divine sense to observe the tiny differences, he fell into a kind of trance. "Come out!" Zhu Jiuyin suddenly bellowed and turned to look at a particular spirit province while raising her hand. In silence, a spirit province of several hundred square kilometers exploded. As the stones scattered everywhere, a few figures appeared in embarrassment as they looked both horrified and doubtful. However, before Zhu Jiuyin could make a move again, she heard someone guffawing. "You've got a short temper, it seems, senior sister Zhu. That isn't good for you, as it might make you grow old faster." Following that, a figure engulfed in demon chi shot out of a spirit province in a different direction. He was none other than Tizheng, who showed up in the restaurant in the shattered Heaven Star City before. He wasn't on his own, as he was followed by two others. Fog was seen weltering around them, so no one could clearly see their figures. However, the auras exuding from their bodies suggested that they were high-rank open heaven realm masters. Shwa shwa shwa. Many figures started appearing above the spirit provinces around them. He and the others looked around and became alarmed. That was because in the depths of the shattered heaven, more than 20 open heaven realm masters had gathered together in this part of the void. Apart from Tijing and the other 2 high-rank open heaven realm masters, the rest of them were mid-rank open heaven realm masters. Even the weakest one was in the 4th order. This kind of formation could be described as horrifying. Throughout the 3,000 worlds, only the cave heavens and paradises were able to mobilize so many powerful open heaven realm masters. Judging from the current situation, Chu Huashang's speculation some time ago was right. This time, they had indeed gathered 3 high-rank open heaven realm masters at the shadowless cave heaven to deal with Zhu Jioyin. As long as they could hold her down, the rest of Yang Kai's companions were no match for their people. The difference in numbers on the 2 sides was glaring. I'm old enough to be your grandmother, so what if I'm a little foul-tempered? Zhu Jioyin snorted and reproached him. Tijing replied with a smile. I hope that your power justifies your terrible temper, senior sister Zhu. Just then, someone beside Tijing asked, Chu girl, what are you doing here? Don't forget your identity. He could apparently recognize Chu Huashang. She pressed her lips together and replied, Junior brother Yang has saved my life on multiple occasions. Since he's in trouble now, I can't sit back and do nothing. My actions today are mine and mine alone. They have nothing to do with my master sect. After this incident, I will return to the sect to accept any punishment they deem necessary. There's never a gentle fight in this world. Are you sure you can leave this place alive? The person asked. Chu Huashang replied with a smile, if I die, I won't have anything to worry about anymore. The person nodded, since you've understood, this king will say no more. We are all responsible for our own actions. Many thanks for your lesson, senior. Chu Huashang saluted him in an elegant manner. An impatient Zhu Jioyin scoffed. Cut the crap. Yang boy has come here as he was told. Make a move now if you want to kill him. Let's see if you're capable of doing that. Tijing grinned, Senior Sister Zhu, since you can't wait any longer, I'll grant your wish. As soon as he spoke the last word, he turned into a fog of demon qi and brought with him a horrifying world force as he pounced on Zhu Jioyin. Meanwhile, the 2 high-rank open heaven realm masters beside him made a move at the same time. One of them was wielding a sword while the other flicked his fingers and sent out numerous beams of light. At that instant, the auras of high-rank open heaven realm permeated and shook the world. As soon as these 3 high-rank open heaven realm masters took action, the mid-rank open heaven realm masters around them moved towards specific places to form an array. Following that, they sent flags into the void and started forming hand seals, linking them in a profound and mysterious manner. A fight between high-rank open heaven realm masters was terrifying, so these mid-rank open heaven realm masters were unable to interfere at all. It seemed that their only purpose here was to operate some kind of array rather than to face Zhu Jioyin head-on. This was undoubtedly a wise move, as not only could they prevent any loss of life on their side, but they could also weaken Zhu Jioyin's strength. Before the array fully activated, Zhu Jioyin already felt a pressure coming at her. She immediately realized that this mysterious array was targeted at divine spirits. Thus, she yelled, "Protect Yang boy!" As she spoke, she charged towards the high-rank open heaven realm masters on her own, initiating a world-shaking battle. He and the others formed into a triangular formation as they surged their powers to ward off the fallout from the battle, protecting Yang Kai behind them. Presently, Yang Kai was just a half-step open heaven realm master, so if he was hit by a shockwave from the battle between Zhu Jioyin and her enemies, he would die on the spot. Therefore, he and the others wouldn't dare to be negligent. When the 100 Sects Alliance invaded Voidland previously, Zhu Jioyin was able to fend off 2 high-rank open heaven realm masters. However, it seemed taxing for her to battle against 3 high-rank open heaven realm masters now, as she fell into a disadvantage almost immediately. Faced with the attacks of Tijing and the others, she could only protect herself but not counterattack. Furthermore, the current situation was different from the previous one. Back then, Zhu Jioyin had nothing to worry about, so she could focus on the battle against her enemies. But this time, she had to ensure Yang Kai's safety, so she was even more constrained. Just a moment later, a rumbling sound was heard as the array targeted at divine spirits took shape. An abstruse pattern lit up in the void as Zhu Jioyin and the others stood in the center of effect. Zhu Jiuyin suddenly became slightly sluggish, and following a rain of attacks from Tizheng and the others, she fell into a perilous situation. Just a while later, wounds could be seen appearing on her body. "What is this damned spirit array?" Zhu Jiuyin bellowed through gritted teeth. While Tizheng calmly attacked her, he replied, "Locking divine spirit array. It's an array specifically designed to suppress divine spirits. Senior Sister Zhu, you're extremely powerful, so this array won't have much impact on you. However, in a life-or-death battle, even the slightest influence might cost your life." "Despicable," Zhu Jiuyin snarled. It seemed that the siege by Xin Liang and Jiang Yunshan from Heavenly Sword Union previously was indeed just a probe. Zhu Jiuyin was forced to make a move in that fight, so the other party brought out this locking divine spirit array to deal with her. Tizheng grinned. "Senior sister, you're quite beautiful, so you shouldn't waste your time protecting a boy in the Emperor realm. Why don't you side with me from now on?" "Side with you? That's right." Tizheng smiled faintly. "I do need a mount now." "Since you're a divine spirit, you would be qualified. As long as you side with me, I'll treat you well." Murderous intent surged as Zhu Jiuyin roared, "You dare blaspheme this queen. You court death." She couldn't believe that someone had the gall to want to make her, a divine spirit heavenly moon demon spider, their mount. There could be no greater humiliation. However, it was useless for her to be enraged at this moment. Under the restriction of the locking divine spirit array, her divine spirit source had been slightly suppressed, so she wasn't able to fully exert her strength. What's more, she still had to protect Yang Kai. In short order, her fair skin was marred with wounds. Fortunately, as a divine spirit, Zhu Jiuyin's vitality was quite astonishing. Otherwise, she would have been weakened significantly from these wounds. She secretly cursed at Yang Kai for being obstinate as she was dragged into this mess. There were times when she had the urge to grab him and simply flee from this place. However, she was even more infuriated by Tizheng's words, so she became determined to teach him a lesson today. On the other hand, when he and the others, who were protecting Yang Kai, saw that Zhu Jiuyin was suffering a setback, they realized that the array had some impact on her. They wanted to break the array, but the battle between the three high-rank Open Heaven Realm Masters and Zhu Jiuyin was so intense they didn't dare to act rashly. Left with no choice, they could only remain in place with their anxieties. Above a certain spirit province fragment that was a few thousand kilometers away, some figures hid themselves and suppressed their auras. Apart from the fact that there was not even a single high-rank Open Heaven Realm Master around, this group of people were a match for the ones attacking Yang Kai and the others when it came to the number of people and collective strength. The person at the front was seen with a pair of bloodshot eyes as though blood was swirling around behind them. He was none other than Black Crow Divine Monarch. Just like what Yang Kai had expected, even though Black Crow had turned Yang Kai down outright, he was actually interested in this opportunity. However, he didn't want to reveal his intentions in front of Yang Kai. Certainly, he was aware that Yang Kai wanted to use him to deal with the cave heavens and paradises, which was why he rejected him so firmly. However, he wouldn't want to miss such a good chance either. Therefore, after Yang Kai and the others left, Black Crow led his people to secretly follow them to this place. Presently, he could see that they had gotten into an intense battle. Even though he was several thousand kilometers away, he could still feel the horrifying world force explosions sweeping across him, which made him feel elated. Wonderful. Keep fighting so that this monarch can appear at the last moment and reap all the benefits. He was resentful of both parties in this battle. The cave heavens and paradises hunted him down and forced him to sneak into the shattered heaven. On the other hand, Yang Kai had repeatedly foiled his plans in the blood monster cave heaven. It could be said that he had fallen into such a state because of Yang Kai. Therefore, he was determined to kill both parties. Seeing both his enemies fighting to kill one another, he was naturally quite jovial. Regardless of which party emerged as the winner, he would be able to reap all the benefits by kidnapping some blood sacrifices for himself. Both Yang Kai and the other party had many mid-rank Open Heaven Realm Masters with them after all. To the side, Tan Luoxing said with a fawning smile, "Everything is within your expectations, Divine Monarch." This dog-eat-dog fight between them is splendid. Black Crow grinned. It seems that Brad is on the losing side, though. Tan Luoxing's interest had been piqued as well. Do you think Yang Kai will die? Since Black Crow was in a good mood, he decided to explain the situation. He's not going to have an easy time. Even though he has a divine spirit to protect him, there are 3 high-rank Open Heaven Realm Masters on the other side, and those mid-rank Open Heaven Realm Masters have set up the locking Divine Spirit array. As soon as they can break through the Divine Spirit's protection, that brat will definitely die. Now, it seems that even though the Divine Spirit is powerful, she's unable to ensure that little bastard's safety. It's just a matter of time before her guard is broken through. An excited Tan Luoxing said, I knew that he would have a short life. I hope he dies a horrible death. Yang Kai was the main reason he had fallen into such a state. If Yang Kai hadn't brought the wooden token to Abundance City, he wouldn't have attempted to kill him and then been forced to flee from that place. Yang Kai was the cause of his misery. Of course, if he hadn't fled from Abundance City and come across Black Crow Divine Monarch, he would have exploded and lost his life just like Mo Mei and the others because of the blood principle restriction. At the thought of Mo Mei, Tan Luoxing appeared dejected. Even though he was a slave now, he was still alive at the very least. However, the others from Abundance City were not so lucky. Unbeknownst to him, the people from Abundance City were now living a great life in Voidland. It would be interesting if he ever found out about it. It was apparent to Black Crow which party was on the losing side. Zhu Jiuyin was in a perilous situation as she had to keep retreating, so he frowned and said, This is bad. That divine spirit is no match for them. It's time for us to make a move. Tan Luoxing was shocked. Are you going to help that boy? Yang Kai? Divine Monarch? Black Crow grinned. The best scenario for this monarch is if the battle drags on. If one side loses too soon, how am I supposed to get my blood sacrifices? Tan Luoxing was unwilling to act, but since Black Crow had given the order, there was nothing he could do. And so, they secretly began moving from the Spirit Province fragment towards the battlefield. There were countless such Spirit Province fragments in the Shattered Heaven, so neither side currently in combat could have expected that a large number of mid-rank Open Heaven Realm Masters was hiding behind this one like a pack of ferocious beasts, just waiting to strike. Usually, regardless of how perfectly Black Crow's group could hide themselves, they would be unable to evade the perception of the high-rank Open Heaven Realm Masters and a Divine Spirit. However, Zhu Jiuyin and her enemies were engaged in a life-or-death battle now, so they were unable to pay attention to anything else. The Spirit Province fragment slowly approached. Just when they were about several dozen kilometers away from the array, a strange turn of events took place. An unfamiliar aura abruptly spread around as a figure appeared in the battlefield like a phantom and turned into a ray of light before charging towards Yang Kai. Black Crow's expression changed. There's one more person here? The aura that had suddenly appeared was that of a high-rank Open Heaven Realm Master. Initially, Black Crow thought that both sides had shown all their cards, with 3 high-rank Open Heaven Realm Masters being sent to deal with the Divine Spirit, so it surprised him when he realized that there was a 4th such master who had been hiding all along. This person was pretty skillful as Zhu Jiuyin wasn't even aware of his presence. As soon as he made his move though, Tizhang and the others bombarded Zhu Jiuyin with their attacks to tie her down. As long as she was unable to extract herself from the fight, Yang Kai was bound to lose his life following the 4th high-rank Open Heaven Realm Master's attack even though he had Yu He and the others with him. Things played out just as expected. The moment the 4th high-rank Open Heaven Realm Master made a move, Zhu Jiuyin was unable to rescue Yang Kai as she was forced to counter the attacks from Tizhang and the others. The 4th master shot past her and lightly pushed out his palm, whereupon Yu He and the others spat blood and were sent flying away. Following that, the person pointed a finger at Yang Kai. Young master! Yu He wailed as she pushed all her power in an attempt to save Yang Kai, but her efforts were futile. Right before the finger was about to reach his forehead though, Yang Kai, who had been looking for the entrance of the shadowless cave heaven, suddenly opened his eyes and clenched his teeth before summoning a small tortoise shell, which spun around and rapidly enlarged in front of him. Following a loud boom, Yang Kai was injured as he sprayed out a mouthful of blood and was sent flying. At the same time, the tortoise shell was glowing brightly. The 4th master arched his brow as he realized that it was no ordinary tortoise shell. He then pushed out his palm at Yang Kai 3 times in quick succession. As the horrifying world force surged, Xianxia felt like he was in a small boat caught in a tempest, at risk of drowning at any moment. The tortoiseshell obstinately stood guard in front of Xianxia and glowing fiercely. It managed to fend off the high-rank Open Heaven Realm Master's successive attacks, but despite that, Xianxia still felt his blood weltering in his body from the impact alone. Bai Shi's tortoise shell. The person quickly figured out the tortoise shell's origins. As the saying went, Bai Shi bears a heavy load. Known for carrying a world on his back, Bai Shi naturally had exceptional strength and defense. The tortoise shell he shed was undoubtedly extraordinary. It was only natural that the shell could ward off several strikes from a high-rank Open Heaven Realm Master. However, regardless of how great a defense was, it could not withstand persistent bombardment forever. Moreover, Xianxia was only in the Emperor realm, so even though he could activate the power of Bai Shi's tortoise shell, he was unable to persevere for a long time. Just the shockwaves from the clash would eventually be enough to kill him. The fourth high-rank Open Heaven Realm Master seemed determined to kill Xianxia in this place, so even though he could recognize Bai Shi's shell, he didn't seem to have the intention of holding back as he was ready to strike again. As his murderous intent surged, a terrifying aura suddenly spread out. At the same time, a woman was heard yelling, "Heaven-covering web!" As the divine spirit's aura swept across the sky, a colossal figure suddenly appeared. It was a gigantic silver spider. As her terrifying figure hovered in the void, all her legs were seen dancing. The crescent moon symbol on her back was especially conspicuous. Zhu Jiuyin had shown her true form. When a divine spirit assumed their true form, it meant that they had fully activated their power. Previously, Zhu Jiuyin was forced to reveal her true form by the two high-rank Open Heaven Realm Masters in Voidland. Now that she was faced with 4 high-rank Open Heaven Realm Masters, she couldn't possibly have any reservation. Furthermore, as soon as she revealed her true form, a huge spider web suddenly appeared and unfolded in the void before engulfing all 4 high-rank Open Heaven Realm Masters. At that instant, a sense of danger rose within them as they felt like they were insects who had accidentally crashed into a spider web. Zhu Jiuyin was heard laughing in an eerie voice as she gently flicked a thread of the spider web with her huge leg. Following a clang, which sounded like a sword leaving the sheath or the music played by devils, the high-rank Open Heaven Realm Master, who was raining attacks on Xianxia, fell into a dazed state. When he snapped back to reality, he suddenly saw a ray of light coming right at him. Horrified, he was forced to stop attacking Xianxia and quickly defend himself. Following a loud boom, the local space shook. The high-rank Open Heaven Realm Master flew backwards for 1,000 meters as he spat out a mouthful of blood. Being injured after just one strike, he became quite wary when he turned to look at Zhu Jiuyin. While Zhu Jiuyin made this move though, Tijing and the others didn't stand idly by and seized the chance and fiercely strike at her body. Unable to deal with both sides at the same time, Zhu Jiuyin was seriously wounded. There was a 30-meter-long wound on her back that revealed her squirming flesh. However, she was still slowly flicking her gigantic spider web as clanging sounds were heard in succession which seemed able to shake the universe. The sound contained a mysterious power that could bind Tijang and the others to their spots regardless of how hard they tried to struggle out of the web. Rays of light were seen moving around the spider web, and each one contained immense powers. The high-rank Open Heaven Realm Masters wouldn't dare to underestimate these rays as they jumped around in embarrassment. Tijang snarled through clenched teeth. "You were concealing your true strength all along." Even though Zhu Jiuyin had showcased great strength in the battle back in Voidland several years ago, it was still only slightly difficult to deal with. Tijing and the others had estimated that just 3 high-rank Open Heaven Realm Masters would be enough to deal with her. The reason they used the help of a 4th person was to make sure that no accidents would happen. Furthermore, the locking divine spirit array was arranged here to suppress her source and weaken her. Now, it seemed that Zhu Jiuyin hadn't revealed all her might in the battle in Voidland. At the very least, she had never showcased this heaven-covering web. She was able to hold down 4 7th-order Open Heaven Realm Masters all on her own. So it was obvious that her power was equivalent to that of an 8th-order Open Heaven Realm Master. In truth, though, Tijang was mistaken. Previously in Voidland, Zhu Jiuyin used all the strength she had to fight him. The reason she appeared stronger now, on par with an 8th Order Open Heaven Realm Master, was because she originated from the Grand Ancient Ruins boundary and needed time to adapt to the 3,000 Worlds principles. It had been 3 years since the last battle, a period of time that was neither long nor short, but it was sufficient for her to restore more of her strength. That was the reason she seemed more formidable than in the past. They had 4 high-rank Open Heaven Realm Masters and used 20 mid-rank Open Heaven Realm Masters to form the locking Divine Spirit array. Nevertheless, instead of killing Xianxia quickly, they had become bound in Zhu Jiuyin's heaven-covering web. Tizhang and the others naturally sported dark expressions because of that. Following a roar, a grim voice was heard shouting, "Fear nothing, spare no one." Demon Qi surged as a gigantic demon phantom appeared behind Tizhang. The demon phantom was covered in narrowed and eerie-looking eyes. There were probably more than 1,000 eyes, and every one of them was darting around randomly as though they were suffering from hysteria. There was a huge blade that was almost 300 meters long in the demon phantom's hand. Its horrifying presence was able to shake the universe and shatter space itself. As soon as thousand-eyed demon phantom appeared, Tizhang became even more overbearing than before. "Divine manifestation!" Bai Qi exclaimed. Divine manifestations were techniques exclusive to high-rank Open Heaven Realm Masters, but not all high-rank Open Heaven Masters possessed one. The people who could successfully cultivate a divine manifestation were the top masters among the high-rank. There had never been anyone in history who could comprehend a divine manifestation below the high-rank Open Heaven Realm except Xianxia. Tizhang was an elder from Myriad Demons Heaven who had lived for a very long time. It had been a couple thousand years since he ascended to the 7th Order, so it wasn't surprising that he had a divine manifestation. Once the divine manifestation was cast, it suggested that Tizhang was no longer holding back. While the thousand-eyed demon phantom came into existence, another high-rank Open Heaven Realm Master also used his divine manifestation. Unlike Tizhang's thousand-eyed demon phantom, this person's divine manifestation looked ordinary, as it was just a spirit peak that hovered behind him. However, a thick and dangerous earth attribute aura could be felt coming from the spirit peak. The remaining 2 high-rank Open Heaven Realm Masters didn't reveal manifestations either because they were concealing their strength or because they simply didn't have one. With that said, the latter was most likely to be true. After all, they had fallen into Zhu Jiuyin's heaven-covering web. Faced with such a formidable divine spirit, they could lose their lives if they still tried to hold back. Even though they didn't have divine manifestations, the divine abilities and secret techniques they used were still quite horrifying. Clanging sounds were continuously heard as Zhu Jiuyin kept flicking her spider web, binding everything within her domain. As the screeching music sounded, ripples were seen spreading across the thousand-eyed demon phantom and the spirit peak. The thousand-eyed demon phantom roared as all its eyes beamed out dark lights which pierced the void and flew at Zhu Jiuyin from all directions. Even though Zhu Jiuyin kept avoiding the dark lights, she was still struck as some parts of her skin became burnt. However, she ignored her injuries as though she couldn't feel any pain. Her countless threads of spider silk turned into razor-sharp blades that whipped and slashed at the 4 high-rank Open Heaven Realm Masters. The demon phantom raised his blade and forcefully brought it down, whereupon a few threads of spider silk snapped with a metallic clang. In an instant, Tizhang felt less pressured as he became elated and attempted to break free from the heaven-covering web. Nevertheless, the moment he jumped up, he saw dozens of rays of light coming from above his head, which forced him to fall back down. Looking up, he realized that the broken threads had been reconnected. The sight of it made him feel vexed. In the void, the lights of secret techniques and divine abilities glittered as Zhu Jiuyin was locked in an intense battle with the 4 7th Order Open Heaven Realm Masters. Even Yu He and Chu Huashang, who were in the 6th Order Open Heaven Realm, were unable to join such a battle, let alone Bai Qi, who was only in the 5th Order. All they could do was stay by Xianxia's side and help him fend off the fallout. Fortunately, they were in the center of the spiderweb, so most of the pressure was still being borne by Zhu Jiuyin and the fallout that reached them was negligible. However, anyone could tell that even though Zhu Jiuyin appeared to be domineering, she was unable to persevere forever. Moreover, she was too heavily outnumbered, so she was in a really tight spot in this battle. Once Xu Jiuyin's secret technique was broken through, all of her companions wouldn't stand a chance to counterattack. Now, they could only hope that Yangkai could find the entrance to the shadowless cave heaven as soon as possible so that they could enter and rest. During the fierce battle, a shriek was suddenly heard from an unexpected place. Everyone involved in the battle was shocked as they turned to look in that direction. Upon finding out what was going on, Zhu Jiuyin remained indifferent while Tizhang and the other high-rank masters became enraged. A spirit province that had been approaching them slowly exploded all of a sudden. Following that, more than 20 mid-rank Open Heaven Realm Masters shot out and bombarded the people who were supporting the locking Divine Spirit array. This group appeared too abruptly, catching everyone off guard. By the time the myriad demons' heaven disciples realized what was happening, it was already too late. The instant the attack began, several people already lost their lives, which included a 6th Order Open Heaven Realm Masters. "How dare you? Who are you?" Tizhang bellowed. A grim voice was heard cackling. "It's your grandpa Black Crow." Upon hearing that, the high-rank Open Heaven Realm Masters were stunned and Tizhang widened his eyes in shock. "Black Crow Divine Monarch. How can this be? Why is Black Crow Divine Monarch here?" Back then, Black Crow ruthlessly killed many disciples from the cave heavens and paradises in the Blood Monster Cave Heaven. After the Blood Monster Cave Heaven collapsed and the cave heavens and paradises got wind of Black Crow's doings, they cordoned off all the territory gates in the Blood Monster territory. Everyone who wanted to pass through the territory gates had to submit to inspection. The cave heavens and paradises had spent an entire year trying to capture Black Crow, but they were unable to find any trace of him. Since the collapse of the Blood Monster Cave Heaven, Black Crow seemed to have vanished into thin air. Black Crow was an old fox who had lived for innumerable years and possessed an incredible secret art like the Grand Evolution Immortal Blood Light Scripture. Naturally, the cave heavens and paradises wouldn't let him off. Tizhang had been paying close attention to this matter as well, so he immediately understood who the other party was when he heard the name Black Crow. How did this bastard flee from the Blood Monster territory and sneak into the Shattered Heaven? Why does he have so many mid-rank Open Heaven Realm Masters serving him? Tizhang could not understand what was happening. His heart sank as he knew that his side was in trouble now. If he came across Black Crow at any other time, he would have been ecstatic. As long as he could capture this fellow, he could stand a chance to comprehend the Grand Evolution Immortal Bloodlight Scripture. Moreover, this kind of old dog who had lived for countless years must have other secrets with him as well. However, at this moment, Black Crow suddenly appearing with a group of masters gave Tizhang a big headache. Now, all 4 high-rank Open Heaven Realm Masters were stuck in Zhu Jiuyin's heaven-covering web. They couldn't break free from it if Zhu Jiuyin wasn't killed. Without their support, their disciples scattered around the locking Divine Spirit array wouldn't be able to fight Black Crow and his band. Like a tiger that had just left the mountain, Black Crow led his subordinates and attacked the enemy. In just 10 breaths of time, they managed to kill 5 more Open Heaven Realm Masters, including the one in charge of the array. Black Crow pointed his finger at the front and ordered, "Kill them all!" Tizhang yelled, "Don't you dare, Black Crow!" Black Crow glared at him and sneered, "Open your eyes wide and see whether this monarch dares to." He was forced to live miserably in the Shattered Heaven because he was hunted down by the cave heavens and paradises. Now that he had a chance to get some revenge, he certainly wouldn't miss it. The grudges between those great forces and him had been formed, so it made no difference to him whether he killed even more of their disciples. The cultivators behind him turned into rays of light and shot towards another array node where 5 more Open Heaven Realm Masters had gathered together to support the operation of the array. Seeing so many enemies coming at them, this group of 5 wouldn't dare to remain. Upon seeing that, the other Open Heaven Realm Masters in other array nodes ground their teeth and stopped operating the array before gathering together in the same spot. If they worried about the array, they would be killed by Black Crow and the others one by one. By then, none of them could hope to leave this place alive. Only by gathering together could they stand a chance to go against Black Crow and his subordinates. Soon, 2 groups clashed in a fierce battle. Black Crow remained in the same spot as a mysterious aura swirled around him. The vitality of the deceased Open Heaven Realm Masters was attracted by this aura and converged around him. In the blink of an eye, Black Crow was engulfed in a thick layer of blood mist. So delicious! The blood essence of those from the cave heavens and paradises tastes so different. Black Crow was heard laughing from inside the blood mist. The high-rank open heaven realm masters caught up in the heaven-covering web were infuriated. The thousand-eyed demon phantom behind Tizheng kept beaming out dark lights and wielded his blade. At the same time, the gigantic spirit peak manifestation behind another master repeatedly attempted to smash Zhu Jiu Yin's true form. All four high-rank open heaven realm masters were trying their hardest in an attempt to break free from the web. However, without the restriction of the locking divine spirit array, Zhu Jiuyin became even more powerful as she was able to hold down the high-rank open heaven realm masters more easily. One would expect that the center of the spider web would be the most chaotic, but it was the most serene spot instead. Space principles undulated around Yang Kai as he kept using different hand seals before pushing out his palms at the void in front of him. He could sense that there were some unusual space fluctuations before him, and he could even faintly feel the aura of another world from it. It must be the aura of the shadowless cave heaven. As long as he could open up the portal, he would have a chance to look for the proprietress inside and bring her out. Despite that realization, Yang Kai was still unable to achieve his goal, regardless of how hard he tried. The entrance of that universe cave heaven was like a hefty door. No matter how much force he exerted, he was unable to open it. The intense battle went on. The appearance of Black Crow and his subordinates divided the battlefield into two separate clashes. One of which was Zhu Jiuyin battling against four high-rank open heaven realm masters on her own, while the other was the intense battle between two groups of several dozen mid-rank open heaven realm masters. Even though the battle between Zhu Jiuyin and the high-rank open heaven realm masters was world-shaking, they all possessed incredible strength and abilities. Therefore, despite the fact that they had fully used their powers, they had fallen into a kind of stalemate. With that said, it was inevitable that they became injured, especially Tizheng. Zhu Jiuyin was incensed that this man humiliated her earlier, so most of her attacks were targeted at him, causing him to groan in exasperation. In the other clash, people were heard shrieking as lives were lost with great frequency. Both sides had roughly the same number of people, and they were equally matched when it came to their orders. However, Black Crow and his subordinates were undoubtedly weaker when it came to their collective power. Just like how Mo Mei, a sixth-order open heaven realm master, wasn't a match for Luan Baifeng in the past, Black Crow's subordinates were all newly promoted open heaven realm masters, so they hadn't had time to consolidate their foundations and build up their heritage, leading them to be weaker than the mid-rank open heaven realm masters brought to this place by Tizhen and the others. Moreover, the secret techniques and artifacts they used were inferior to those of the other party. Surprisingly though, Black Crow and his subordinates actually gained the upper hand quite quickly. When Black Crow resolved the blood principle restriction on these mid-rank open heaven realm masters in the past, he used a trick and made sure that he could control their life or death. Therefore, as soon as he gave the order, none of them dared to be negligent as they went all out, risking their lives. Furthermore, Black Crow and his subordinates had killed some opponents in their initial surprise attack, so the momentum was already on their side. Once they engaged in battle, the mid-rank open heaven realm masters from the cave heavens and paradises found it hard to breathe and were soon suppressed. The situation exacerbated for them when Black Crow joined the battle. The body taken over by Black Crow was that of Zhou Yi from Great Thousand Bloodland. Even though Zhou Yi was a core disciple in his great force, he was still far weaker than Chu Huashang and the others as he only managed to condense fifth-order powers. Black Crow had inherited Zhou Yi's heritage, so he could only reach the fifth order when he ascended to the open heaven realm. However, after using the Grand Evolution Immortal Bloodlight scripture to absorb the blood essence of all the deceased mid-rank open heaven realm masters around him, his aura surged to the point where it was on par with an ordinary sixth-order master. He was an old master who was reborn in someone else's body. Coupled with his sixth-order strength, no one beneath the high-rank open heaven realm masters was his match. He had mastered the Grand Evolution Immortal Bloodlight scripture, which contained many powerful methods that he could now use with ease. Immediately after he joined the battle, countless blood crows flew around and squawked loudly, blinding and distracting his opponents. All of the blood crows were relentless, and even after they were destroyed, they would simply recondense. The cave heavens and paradises side soon found themselves overwhelmed. If a person was covered in 3 to 4 layers of blood mist, he was basically doomed in such a battle. Within an incense stick, 6 mid-rank open heaven realm masters from the cave heavens and paradises had been captured alive. Black Crow sealed their cultivations and had one of his subordinates guard them. Obviously, he was planning to bring these people back to serve as his blood sacrifices. A lot of mid-rank open heaven realm masters had lost their lives already. In a short period of time, more than 10 such masters were killed on both sides, most of which came from the cave heavens and paradises. Black Crow had only lost a couple of subordinates so far. Whenever someone was killed, though, Black Crow would use the Grand Evolution Immortal Blood Light Scripture to absorb all of their blood essence. The blood chi around Black Crow thickened by the moment, and his aura became increasingly horrifying. He was starting to show signs of truly breaking through to the Sixth Order. Certainly, the 4 high-rank open heaven realm masters who were caught up in the heaven-covering web could see that the other battle wasn't going in their favor, as many of their subordinates had lost their lives. While Tijing roared repeatedly, another person threatened that he would skin Black Crow alive sooner or later. Of course, Black Crow just snorted and ignored them. Such a great chance was hard to come by. Even though he was fairly strong now, he could only run for his life if he was faced with high-rank open heaven realm masters. That was the reason he had been hiding in the shattered heaven all this time. However, the high-rank open heaven realm masters from the cave heavens and paradises were presently held down by Zhu Jiuyin, so Black Crow had nothing to worry about. It felt exhilarating to take advantage of the disciples from the cave heavens and paradises in such a brazen manner. Although he was lending Xianxia a hand in an indirect way, he had indeed gained a lot of benefits. Therefore, he decided to let Xianxia off for now. As for the grudges between them, he would get even with him when he fully recovered in the future. The subordinates of the high-rank open heaven realm masters were all either dead or injured now. If the remaining ones stayed any longer, all of them would be killed or captured. While facing Zhu Jiuyin's wrath, Tijing yelled at those surviving mid-rank open heaven realm masters, "All of you, leave!" The reason he brought them over was to arrange the locking divine spirit array to pin down Zhu Jiuyin. Now that the spirit array was destroyed and could no longer be used, it was pointless for them to keep staying here. They would only be killed by Black Crow in the end. Since some of them were still alive, the best course of action was for them to flee. The remaining 8 mid-rank open heaven realm masters had been waiting for permission to leave, so as soon as they heard Tijing's order, they activated their secret techniques and ran for their lives without hesitation. "None of you can flee from here." Black Crow snorted and shook his figure, whereupon rays of blood light beamed out of his body. Like maggots on rotting bones, those rays of blood light chased after those disciples. Once someone was struck, his figure would be greatly weakened. Then Black Crow's subordinates would pounce on and capture them. Meanwhile, Black Crow charged towards a certain fifth-order open heaven realm master who was engulfed in demon chi. He had his eyes on that person not because the latter was powerful, but because he was running the fastest. As blood light broke through the air, Black Crow was about to reach that person, and with a grin, he extended his hand and shouted, "You won't get away!" That person hurriedly turned around and pushed out his palm. Black Crow sneered in disdain. He usually wouldn't even have any regard for a fifth-order open heaven realm masters, not to mention that he had absorbed a lot of high-quality blood essence just now and was significantly more powerful than before. As they traded moves, their world forces clashed violently. Black Crow performed a hand seal and activated the Grand Evolution Immortal Blood Light Scripture. Given his power and his mastery of the Blood Light Scripture, there was no way an ordinary fifth-order master could get away from having his blood essence absorbed by him. However, what took place next surprised him. As they traded moves, Black Crow could feel a horrifying suction coming from the other party's palm. The suction power was similar to his Grand Evolution Immortal Blood Light Scripture, but there were some slight differences. Even though the person seemed inexperienced when using this technique, his suction power was just as great as that of Black Crow. Instead of absorbing the other party's blood essence, the overconfident Black Crow had some of his own blood chi sucked away by that person. Following a loud boom, that person was sent flying away as demon chi around him undulated. In the end, there was still a gap between their powers. Following the clash, this Fifth Order Open Heaven Realm Master suffered a setback as expected. However, he was pretty swift, and using the momentum from being flung back, he turned into a cloud of demon chi and flew away. Black Crow was still shocked by the exchange of attacks earlier, and by the time he came to his senses, the other party was already nowhere in sight. Then, he looked down at his palm as his bloodshot eyes glistened. Interesting. How interesting. He wondered what kind of secret art that Fifth Order Open Heaven Realm Master from Myriad Demon's Heaven had cultivated. Through their brief contact just now, he could feel that the other party's secret art must be extremely abstruse, but due to the fact that the person still hadn't mastered it, his execution appeared somewhat amateurish. That person could already display such an immense power before mastering his secret art. Therefore, the secret art must be as powerful as the Grand Evolution Immortal Bloodlight scripture, if not even more so. It seemed there truly were innumerable wonders in this expansive world. As Black Crow stared intently in the direction that person had fled, he snorted before turning around with his hands behind his back. In just a short while, the dust had settled, and of the original 20 or so mid-rank Open Heaven Realm Masters from the Cave Heavens and Paradises, other than 6 who managed to flee, all the others were either killed or captured. Black Crow's subordinates were also wounded as their auras faltered and world forces trembled. There were over 20 of them initially, but now there were only about a dozen. He had lost 10 subordinates in that battle. Rays of bloodlight could be seen shooting out of the corpses and gathering around Black Crow. Tan Luoxing and the others stared at him in horror, but none of them dared to utter a word. Meanwhile, the high-rank Open Heaven Realm Masters and the gigantic Heavenly Moon Demon Spider were still locked in an intense battle in the heaven-covering web that stretched across the void. Black Crow licked his lips as though he was drooling over some delicious dishes. If possible, he wouldn't mind interfering in that battle too. The blood essence of high-rank Open Heaven Realm Masters and a divine spirit were on a completely different scale compared to what he had absorbed earlier. The blood essence of a powerful master would be greatly beneficial to him. However, he was incapable of interfering in such a battle. Even if he made all his subordinates join in, it wouldn't make a difference. Suppressing his greed, Black Crow sneered. All of you from 36 Cave Heavens and 72 Paradises, widen your eyes and look. This is the consequence of going against me. And this is just the beginning. There will come a day when this monarch re-enters the 3,000 worlds, storms into your headquarters, and kills all of you. Tijing bellowed, "Old dog, how dare you act so presumptuous? You court death." Black Crow scoffed. "You'll find out whether this monarch is the presumptuous one later. Let's go." Following that, he turned around and left. Tijang and the others were both shocked and infuriated. One of them bellowed, "Don't flee, you coward." There were 4 high-rank Open Heaven Realm Masters around, so how could they possibly let Black Crow just take their subordinates away? However, even though they wanted to save them, they were unable to do so. Before destroying Zhu Jiuyin's heaven-covering web, none of them could leave this place. As they exchanged glances, they knew that they couldn't hold back anymore. If they still wouldn't risk their lives, Black Crow would escape from this place. After they made a decision, layers of blood mist were seen exploding around the 4 of them. As these 4 high-rank Open Heaven Realm Masters burned their blood essence, their auras exploded. Even the 1,000-eyed demon phantom behind Tijang became reddened and more overbearing. No one was willing to use this kind of technique unless they were left with no choice, as doing so would damage their foundation and it would be troublesome to recover from. However, that was the least of their worries in this situation. In an instant, Zhu Jiuyin felt immensely pressured as her heaven-covering web was no longer able to restrict the movements of these 4 masters. Following the attacks of the 1,000-eyed demon phantom's demonic lights and blade, the web was starting to show signs of collapsing. Although Zhu Jiuyin was trying her best to sustain it, she was unable to persevere indefinitely. After all, she hadn't fully restored her power yet. Just now, she had caught her opponents off guard. She had already done her best by trying to confine them for such a long time. Seeing as the 4 enemies were about to break free from her web, Zhu Jiuyin realized that once they managed to do so, she would be unable to ensure Yang Kai's safety on her own. She suddenly had the intention of retreating. While she was still lost in her thoughts, She felt her chest tightening. Following a loud boom, her gigantic true form staggered backwards while her heaven-covering web broke apart. A ray of light shot out of the spider web and rushed in the direction Black Crow and his subordinates had left earlier. Apparently, he was trying to save the captured mid-rank Open Heaven Realm Masters. He disappeared into the distance in the blink of an eye. Meanwhile, Tizhang and the others bombarded Zhu Jiuyin with their attacks. The giant spirit peak repeatedly landed on her while the thousand-eyed demon phantom slashed across the void with its blade. A flustered Zhu Jiuyin brandished all of her legs, and even the crescent moon mark on her back started glittering. She wanted to weave a web again, but she didn't have the chance to do so. As soon as she spat out a thread of spider silk, it would be destroyed with overwhelming force. The remaining 3 high-rank Open Heaven Realm Masters seemed to have tacitly come up with a strategy as 2 of them pinned Zhu Jiuyin down while the last person pounced towards Yang Kai. Their goal this time was to kill Yang Kai, so as long as they could achieve their objective, they could immediately leave this place. By then, Zhu Jiuyin would never be able to stop them. Even though Zhu Jiuyin was powerful, she was faced with the divine manifestations of 2 high-rank Open Heaven Realm Masters on her own. Meanwhile, the last person brought with him an immense world force and broke through the spider web's restriction before appearing before Yang Kai in the blink of an eye. Yu He, Bai Qi, and Chu Huashang became alarmed as they hurriedly tried to intercept this person. However, the difference in their strength couldn't be made up with numbers. Faced with the tremendous force, the 3 of them were sent flying away after just 3 breaths. They looked battered as they sprayed out blood from their mouths. Since there were no more obstacles in the way, the 7th Order Open Heaven Realm Master looked at Yang Kai condescendingly. An Emperor Realm Junior to him was just an ant. Engulfed in a sense of crisis, Yang Kai gritted his teeth and pushed all his might to use Bai Qi's turtle shell to protect himself. Yang Kai had used the turtle shell to fend off his opponent some time ago, so he was naturally prepared to do so again. However, even though this shell was sturdy, the person using it was too feeble. Instead of destroying the turtle shell, this master only had to continuously attack, and Yang Kai would eventually die from the impact. Therefore, even though Yang Kai had summoned the turtle shell, this person still didn't seem to have the intention of holding back. As he brandished his fists, innumerable shadows engulfed Yang Kai. Hong hong hong. World force surged like a storm. Even though the light on the turtle shell remained strong and obstinately stood guard in front of Yang Kai, the fallout that passed through the shell and reached Yang Kai was enough to cause severe damage. Just a moment later, Yang Kai felt as though all his bones had been dislocated and the vitality in his chest was weltering. It seemed that he would lose his life at any moment. At the critical moment, he could no longer hold back and shouted, "Dragon transformation!" Following a high-pitched dragon roar, the universe trembled. A huge and majestic dragon's head manifested behind Yang Kai's back before disappearing into his body. As a golden light glittered and explosive sounds were continuously heard, Yang Kai's figure expanded rapidly. His hands turned into gigantic dragon claws and dragon horns grew out of his forehead. A long dragon tail swept out and his entire figure was covered in a layer of glistening golden dragon scales. Simultaneously, a rich dragon pressure permeated the void. An originally petite human suddenly transformed into a 4,000 meters long behemoth. Yang Kai had refined all the dragon blood pills he had obtained from the grand ancient ruins boundary, which allowed his dragon form to evolve massively once again. Bai Qi's turtle shell expanded exponentially as it seemed to cover the void and hovered in front of Yang Kai, who extended his claw and grabbed it as though he was holding a colossal shield. Following a dragon roar, Yang Kai shot a glare at the high-rank Open Heaven Realm Master who attempted to harm him. As his dragon whiskers flapped in the air, he targeted the person and hurled the turtle shell at him. "You're part of the dragon clan?" That person was flabbergasted. He never expected to see Yang Kai undergo such a transformation. Feeling the pure dragon pressure, he fell into a dazed state, and by the time came to his senses, the turtle shell was already upon him. Then he roared and parried the attack with both hands. As the violent forces clashed, the master was forced back several hundred meters before he was able to stabilize himself. On the other hand, Yang Kai slightly bent backwards as he almost flipped over. The flesh on his arms exploded as his golden dragon blood splashed across the void. There was still an enormous gap between their powers, which was why Yongkai immediately suffered a setback. If it weren't because his dragon form was extremely sturdy, he would have exploded on the spot from the impact. Meanwhile, Tijing and the other 7th Order Open Heaven Realm Master were stunned as they looked dazedly at Yongkai. Quickly, they used feints to withdraw and widen the gap between Zhu Jiuyin and them. Zhu Jiuyin breathed a sigh of relief, as she didn't have the intention of relentlessly attacking them. Just now, for a moment, she thought that Yongkai was doomed as she secretly cursed at him for being overconfident about his capabilities and interfering in this matter. If he really died in this place, Shan Qingluo and the others would become widows. By then, she wouldn't know how she could explain herself to Shan Qingluo when she returned. However, it never crossed her mind that the high-rank Open Heaven Realm Master would relent at this moment, allowing Yongkai to escape from death's door. The intense battle came to an abrupt halt as He and the others, who were coming back to protect Yongkai, stood there in disbelief. Tijing and his companions gathered together as they vigilantly stared at Zhu Jiuyin while examining Yongkai. They appeared both doubtful and shocked. Yongkai sported a solemn expression as he hovered in the void like a true dragon overlooking the heavens and earth. Even though he was the weakest at the scene by far, he was also the most overbearing. "Are you really a member of the Dragon Clan?" Tijing asked through clenched teeth with a pale face. He was severely wounded when battling against Zhu Jiuyin just now. The main reason was that he had humiliated Zhu Jiuyin, so the woman targeted most of her attacks at him, which led to his current miserable state. At this moment, the small universe in his body was trembling violently. What difference does it make whether I'm part of the Dragon Clan or not? "Cut the crap and fight if that's what you want," Yongkai replied. Every word he said was like thunder that reverberated across the void, making all of their ears ring. Despite what Yongkai had said, he could clearly see a sense of wariness behind the eyes of Tijing and the others. He became slightly at ease as he realized that Miameng and Baishi were right to say that it was useful to reveal his dragon form at the most critical moment. Tijing and the others were naturally not wary of him, but they were of the Dragon Clan. Revealing his dragon form had pros and cons. Even though the Dragon Clan was extraordinarily powerful, they had many enemies in the 3,000 worlds, so this identity might attract some unwanted trouble for him. However, he had no choice but to reveal his dragon form in that kind of situation just now. Tijing snorted. "How could there be such a strange Dragon Clan member like you in this world?" As the 7th Order Open Heaven Realm Master, he was naturally more familiar with the Dragon Clan than ordinary people. Although Yongkai had many characteristics of the Dragon Clan, there were still some traces of a human in him. That was why he was doubtful. With that said, he was puzzled at the purity of his dragon pressure he was currently feeling. If Yongkai only had a faint Dragon Clan bloodline, he couldn't possibly exude such a pure dragon pressure. There was a reason that the Dragon Clan was touted to be the head of the myriad spirits. "Whether I'm a dragon or not is none of your business." Yongkai decided the less he revealed the better. "Humph. This monarch has a way to find out." As Tijing spoke, he rubbed his fingers together and obtained a drop of golden dragon blood that was floating nearby. After having a taste of the blood, though, he sported a dark expression. The other two high-rank Open Heaven Realm Masters turned their heads and observed his expression before realizing that Yongkai was indeed a Dragon Clan member. Otherwise, Tijing wouldn't have sported such a solemn look. At that instant, they furrowed their brows as a single thought crossed their minds. This is bad. It wouldn't have mattered if Yongkai was just a random dragonborn. The Dragon Clan was known for its lasciviousness, and they had left behind countless dragon descendants in the 3,000 worlds. Half-dragons and dragonborn were not valued by the Dragon Clan at all, so they could be killed without any concern. However, a pure-blood dragon couldn't be killed as one pleased. If they could erase all traces of the act, they could ensure the Dragon Clan never found out about it. It wasn't like there had never been dragons who were murdered in the past. Nevertheless, even if they could kill Yongkai today, there was no way they would be able to kill Zhu Jiuyin. Hence, this news was bound to leak out. Although they were all 7th Order Open Heaven Realm Masters, they were not willing to risk offending the Dragon Clan. It wasn't that the great forces behind them were afraid of the Dragon Clan, but creating this kind of unnecessary conflict would be extremely detrimental to them. At that instant, they found all their previous actions laughable. They had summoned 4 high-rank Open Heaven Realm Masters and more than 20 mid-rank Open Heaven Realm Masters to deal with Yang Kai, but in the end, many of them were either killed or injured and they were unable to kill him as they pleased. What was the point of doing all this? If they knew Yang Kai was a Dragon Clan member, they wouldn't have spent so much effort setting up a trap in this place. Now, they were all riding a tiger, unable to get off. They couldn't let Yang Kai go just like that as many of their subordinates were killed. How were they supposed to explain themselves to their respective great forces when they returned? What's more, if they released Yang Kai, it would be troublesome should he manage to ascend to the 7th Order Open Heaven Realm. At that instant, they didn't know what to do as they could neither kill him nor release him. As Tizhang and the others traded glances, they were unable to make a decision. Just then, the 4th high-rank Open Heaven Realm Master, who had run after Black Crow earlier, returned. He had no idea what was going on, so he couldn't help but ask, "What are you all doing?" Another high-rank Open Heaven Realm Master parted his lips and quietly informed him of the situation, causing the former to frown. Tizhang asked, "Where's Black Crow?" "He escaped," that person said resentfully. Black Crow was an old monster who had been reborn by taking over someone's body, and he had also cultivated a heaven-defying secret art. Even though the one who chased him was a high-rank Open Heaven Master, Black Crow still managed to throw him off. Left with no choice, he could only come back. They were not able to either kill or release Yang Kai, while Black Crow had captured their people and fled. Their plot this time could be said to be a complete failure. Therefore, all 4 high-rank Open Heaven Realm Masters sported extremely dark expressions. While they were in a dilemma, Yang Kai suddenly asked loudly, "What's going on with this shadowless cave heaven? Why can't I open the portal?" Initially, Tizhang wanted to ignore him. The failure this time would definitely damage his reputation in Myriad Demon's heaven. When he returned to his great force, he would probably be demoted and punished. Presently, he was wondering how he could settle the issue, so he wasn't in the mood to reply to Yang Kai. However, as he darted his eyes around, he suddenly thought of something and with a smile, he said to Yang Kai, "You're just a half-step Open Heaven Realm Master, so you're unable to open the entrance to the shadowless cave heaven. Why is that?" Yang Kai gazed at him with a tilted head. Tizhang explained that's because there's a restriction around the shadowless cave heaven. The minimum requirement to pass through this barrier is to be in the Open Heaven Realm. It's just like how the barrier around the Blood Monster Cave Heaven dictated that only those below the Open Heaven Realm Masters could enter it. The Shadowless Cave Heaven is just the opposite. Only Open Heaven Realm Masters can go in. "I see," Yang Kai muttered under his breath as though he had already expected it. While both parties were locked in an intense battle just now, he had repeatedly attempted to open up the entrance to the Shadowless Cave Heaven. Unfortunately, even though he had found the entrance, he was obstructed by some kind of repulsive force which stopped him from succeeding. He had a feeling that he was not powerful enough to force it open. If he had sufficient strength, he could easily enter the Shadowless Cave Heaven. "Do you want to go in? It's easy. Just ascend to the Open Heaven Realm." Tizhang grinned. Upon hearing that, the other 3 high-rank Open Heaven Realm Masters arched their brows as they realized Tizhang's intention. "You want me to ascend to the Open Heaven Realm?" Yang Kai sneered at him. Tizhang shrugged and coughed before saying, "It's entirely up to you whether you want to ascend to the Open Heaven Realm, and no one can force you to do so. However, I have to tell you that the Shadowless Cave Heaven isn't a pleasant place. Over the years, many people have entered it, but none of them have managed to come out, so no one knows what the situation is like inside or how dangerous it is. It has been half a year since Lan Yu Ruo fell into it. If you're too slow, you might not even have a chance to retrieve her corpse. Nevertheless, I heard that you're proficient in the Tao of Space. After you go in, you might be able to find a way out. Lan Yu Ruo's life or death is up to you now." He seemed to be encouraging Yang Kai to break through right now, so upon hearing that, He paled and exclaimed, "Don't listen to him." "Young Master." Yang Kai remained in his 3,000 meters dragon form as he narrowed his eyes and looked condescendingly at Tizhang. Even though Tizhang's face was somewhat pale, he still stared back at him smilingly. A moment later, Yang Kai closed his eyes and returned to his human form. Things had come to a point that they wouldn't fight again. Tijing and the others were wary of the Dragon Clan so they wouldn't kill Yang Kai. On the other hand, Yang Kai had no way to defeat them, so it was pointless to sustain his dragon form. Tijing observed his expression and realized that Yang Kai sported a conflicted look, as though he was trying to make a difficult decision. Upon that realization, Zhu Jiuyin shot him a glance. "Brat, are you really?" He anxiously spoke up. "You have come so far in this path, young master. It would be an incredible shame if you fail at the last step. Please don't even think about it." Yang Kai turned to look at her and realized that her eyes were filled with concern and anxiety. There was still a trail of blood at the corner of her mouth. All of a sudden, he stopped hesitating and calmed down as his gaze turned resolute. Then, he took a step forward and helped her brush away the blood on her lips before gently saying, "It's indeed a shame to fail at the last step, but I should have my own power now." As a half-step open heaven realm master, he was too weak and insignificant in all these battles. When he was besieged by Shen Liang and Jiang Yunshan from Heavenly Sword Union back then, all he could do was stay behind everyone's protection. Now he was attacked by Tijing and the others, but all he could do was let his companions protect him. He could only watch as Zhu Jiuyin fought a life-and-death battle with the enemy while he and the others repeatedly spat blood just to shield him from harm. He wouldn't want to go through this kind of terrible experience again, as it pained him to see his companions being harmed while he was powerless to help. As that realization dawned upon him, all his worries melted away and he was left with a decision in his mind, which was ascending to the open heaven realm. All of a sudden, he felt as though he had been enlightened. Only by ascending to the open heaven realm would he have a right to be viewed as important in the 3,000 worlds. Only by ascending to the open heaven realm would he be able to enter the shadowless cave heaven and stand a chance to bring the proprietress out of this place. "Please don't do that, young master," he exclaimed. Yang Kai had been working hard, and coupled with his incredible luck, he had managed to condense 6 high-rank elements. As long as he could complete the last step, he would directly ascend to the high-rank open heaven realm and make a name for himself. If he failed at the very last moment, it would be the biggest regret in his life. Yang Kai spread his arms and flashed a smile at her. "What do you see?" A puzzled he shook her head, her eyes filled with concern. Yang Kai explained, "It's a pair of powerless arms. What can I do with them? Proprietress has fallen into danger because of me, but I'm unable to save her because there's no power in my hands." Then he balled up his fists as though he was trying to grab something. "Only by having strength that I can call my own. Can I change anything?" He and the proprietress were unable to wait any longer. Just like what Tijing had said, no one knew what was going on inside the shadowless cave heaven. It had been half a year since the proprietress fell into it, so there was no telling what kind of danger she was facing. Although the proprietress was among the strongest in the 6th order, she might not be able to break free from this trap. Moreover, what was the point if he kept waiting? It was unrealistic for him to obtain a high-rank element treasure now. This time, Myriad Demon's Heaven led the way and used Proprietress to lure Yang Kai out of Voidland. What would come next? There was no way they would let him off, and the merchants wouldn't dare to offend all the cave heavens and paradises by selling him a high-rank element treasure. It had been 3 years since he started developing the Star City, and business had been excellent, with all the streets filled with people buying and selling all manner of goods. However, although he had offered a heavenly yuan seal stabilizing pill and a high-rank metal element monster core, he still couldn't get what he wanted. Even if he kept waiting, he might not be able to achieve his goal in the end. Rather than waiting for a dream that was out of reach, the most important thing for him now was to have his own strength. Affirming his decision, he turned around as his black hair flapped in the non-existent wind and bellowed, "I'll ascend to the open heaven realm as you wish, Tijing. I hope you all won't be too disappointed." Upon hearing that, Tijing rubbed his palms together and guffawed. "You're indeed a promising young man. If Yang Kai wanted to ascend to the open heaven realm now, he wouldn't be able to become a high-rank open heaven realm master because he didn't have a high-rank element treasure. He could only make it to the 6th order at most. In that case, they were willing to accept such an outcome. All this while, they had been worried that Yang Kai would directly ascend to the 7th order, giving him a chance to become a 9th order open heaven realm master and challenge the order of the 3,000 worlds. If he only ascended to the 6th order, there would no longer be any worries. The highest limit a sixth-order open heaven realm master could achieve was the eighth order. There were quite a number of eighth-order open heaven realm masters who stood guard over the cave heavens and paradises, so Yang Kai wouldn't be able to cause a stir. At that instant, Tijing found Yang Kai to be less despicable as he secretly cursed at the latter for being so difficult. If Yang Kai had made up his mind earlier, they wouldn't have had to go through so much effort. If word got out that some of the cave heavens and paradises, led by myriad demons heaven, joined forces just to suppress an Emperor Realm Jr., all of them would lose a lot of face. Young Master. He still wanted to dissuade him. Yang Kai raised his hand and stroked her head. Stand guard for me. With her lips pressed together, he gazed at him with reddened eyes. While Chu Huashang heaved a sigh, Bai Qi sported a conflicted expression, not knowing what to say. He felt extremely guilty and thought that things might not have come to such a point if he hadn't gone to Voidland to look for Yang Kai. However, he didn't know what else to do. If he stopped Yang Kai, it was akin to letting the proprietress perish. If he let Yang Kai ascend to the open heaven realm at this point, the latter's future would be ruined. He was truly caught in a dilemma. Why do you all wear such expressions? Yang Kai flashed a smile at his companions. Zhu Jiuyin spoke after a sigh. Brat, it's up to you whether you want to ascend to the open heaven realm or not. You have to think it through. Even though she had once tried to force Yang Kai to refine a sixth-order element in Grand Ancient Ruins boundary back then, that was because she wanted to increase his strength to prepare for the spirit-seizing war so that he could stand a better chance to become the winner. Now that he had to voluntarily give up the dream he had been pursuing for years, she couldn't help feeling sorry for him. The main reason she stopped forcing him at that time was that he threatened to kill himself, which showed just how firm his determination was. I've made up my mind. Yang Kai smiled and nodded. He appeared completely at ease. Even though he would ruin the foundation he had built by ascending to the open heaven realm today, he would never regret his decision. That was because if he insisted on being stubborn, the people around him he cared about would be hurt. That was a future he would never want to see. Does any one of you have a sixth-order Yin element treasure? Give it to me. Yang Kai gazed at his companions, who shook their heads at the same time. He arched his brow and turned to look at Zhu Jiuyin. She said, Why are you looking at me? This queen does have some sixth-order materials, but none of them are of the Yin element. Among all the 7 elements, Yin and Yang were much harder to find than metal, wood, water, fire, and earth. Yang Kai had spent lots of open heaven pills to buy all sorts of materials, so he was fully aware of that. He was now a part of Voidland, so it was reasonable that she didn't have any sixth-order Yin element treasures on her. That was because many people in Voidland needed sixth-order materials right now, and such materials were difficult to come by. Be it the items Yang Kai had acquired back then or the new sixth-order materials that had appeared in the Star City, they were all given to the cultivators who needed them in Voidland, so there was basically nothing left. Certainly, Bai Qi and Chu Huashang didn't have one either. The former had followed the proprietress for a long time. If there were any precious items, the proprietress would keep them and only give them to him when needed. As for the latter, even though she was a core disciple of Yin-Yang Cave Heaven, she had just ascended to the sixth order. Hence, she didn't need any sixth-order materials to improve her cultivation for now. Yang Kai hadn't expected that he would have to ascend to the open heaven realm when he left Voidland, which was why he hadn't prepared anything. Although he had made up his mind, he didn't have the item he needed, and even the cleverest woman could not cook a meal without rice. All of them appeared embarrassed in this situation. Yang Kai glared at Zhu Jiuyin and asked, You've been accumulating wealth for a long time in the Grand Ancient Ruins boundary. Why don't you even have a single sixth-order Yin element treasure? Zhu Jiuyin rolled her eyes and replied, This queen doesn't need those things to cultivate, so what's the point of collecting them? Moreover, it's also hard to find Yin and Yang materials in the Grand Ancient Ruins boundary. This was giving Yang Kai a headache as he didn't know what to do. Across from them, Tijing and the others were supposed to be at ease. As soon as Yang Kai ascended to the open heaven realm, the burden on their shoulders would be lifted. However, this unexpected situation rendered them speechless at that instant. Certainly, they were more than happy to see Yang Kai ascending to the open heaven realm at this point, as he would no longer be a threat to them once he did. Although they hadn't managed to kill him as they had planned, The outcome was acceptable as they could explain themselves to the great forces behind them. However, it would be troublesome for them as well if Xianxia couldn't achieve an ascension because there wasn't a Yin element material available. Since they were not able to kill everyone here, they wouldn't dare to make a move on a member of the Dragon Clan. Otherwise, they would have to face the Dragon Clan's wrath. Nevertheless, they were not willing to let Xianxia go just like this.
While they were in a dilemma, they saw Xianxia staring at them. The corners of Tizheng's brow twitched as he asked vigilantly, "Why are you looking at me?" Xianxia snorted, "Since you want me to ascend to the open heaven realm here, I'm willing to grant your wish. However,
you should show me some sincerity in return." "What do you mean?" Tizheng furrowed his brows. "Stop asking the obvious. You know what I want." A speechless Tizheng gazed at him and fell silent for a moment before parting his lips to secretly speak to his companions. Although he was a 7th Order Open Heaven Realm Master, he didn't have a 6th Order Yin element material on hand. Therefore, he could only ask the others whether they had such an item. If they could solve this issue by offering up a 6th Order Yin element material, it would be acceptable. Although Tizheng was displeased, he still suppressed his anger. However, after asking around, he realized that none of them had such a resource. Just like Zhu Jiuyin, they had some 6th Order materials but not Yin and Yang ones. That was because Yin and Yang materials were extremely rare.
even if they obtained such items, they either had to give them to their respective sects for the disciples' cultivation needs or refine these items themselves. The cave heavens and paradises were extremely powerful, so they needed more of these rare resources compared to Voidland.
Tizheng glanced at Xianxia and declared, "None of us have a 6th Order Yin element material." Xianxia's face fell. "All of you are 7th Order Open Heaven Realm Masters who are filthy rich, and you're telling me that none of you has a single 6th Order Yin element treasure. Do you think I was born yesterday?" Tizheng snapped. "Believe it or not, we don't have the item you need." Upon hearing the reply, Xianxia put on a sneer. His expression enraged Tizheng. Instead of getting prepared for his ascension, Xianxia was now blaming others for not having the item he needed, which was ridiculous. However, after giving it a thought, Tizheng realized that Xianxia had always focused on looking for a high-rank Yin element treasure in order to ascend to the 7th Order Open Heaven realm.
Even if a 6th Order Yin element material was presented to him in the past, he probably wouldn't even spare it a glance. This time, he was forced to achieve a breakthrough, so it was expected that he wasn't prepared. After a cough, Tizheng said, "Do you want a 5th Order Yin element?" "This monarch has a very good 5th Order Heavenly Yin sand, which is hard to come by. It's the best kind of material in the 5th Order. If you want, this monarch can give it to you." Xianxia bellowed, "You may kill me, but you cannot humiliate me, Tizheng. You've forced me to ascend to the 6th Order, which is my bottom line, but now you want me to ascend to the 5th Order. What is this? Regardless of how great that heavenly Yin sand may be, it's still a 5th Order material.
Can it help me ascend to the 6th Order? Why don't we just fight it out and leave the rest to fate?" Upon realizing that his suggestion was indeed unrealistic, Tizheng fell silent. Xianxia had built such a solid foundation, and he was gifted enough to become a high-rank Open Heaven Realm Master directly. He was practically forced to ascend to the 6th Order, so it would be outrageous if they still asked him to lower his expectations further and become a 5th Order Open Heaven Realm Master. If they pushed him over the edge now, this young man might do something crazy to retaliate against them. If they got into a fight again, they wouldn't dare to ruthlessly kill Xianxia. By then, they would be the ones who suffered losses. After giving it a thought, Tizheng asked, "Why don't you wait here for a while? This monarch will send a message and tell someone to bring a 6th Order Yin element material over." In fact, he was completely vexed deep inside. His goal was to kill Xianxia to nip this problem in the bud. But things had come to a point that he seemed to be begging the young man to achieve an ascension as soon as possible. Moreover, he had to prepare a 6th Order Yin element treasure for him, which was simply preposterous.
He had lived for a long time, but there had never been a time when he felt so vexed. Xianxia asked in a grim voice, "How long will it take?" Tizheng replied, "It's unrealistic to go back to Myriad Demon's heaven now. However, this monarch can tell someone to buy a 6th Order Yin element material in the Shattered Heavens Star City where all sorts of goods are available.
So it shouldn't be difficult to find the item you want." It'll probably take 1 month for the thing to be sent here. Yang Kai slowly shook his head. That's a long wait. Tizheng frowned. It's just 1 month. Yang Kai said, I can't wait any longer. What do you want then? Yang Kai reminded him,
I want a sixth order in element material right now. Tizheng bellowed, I told you we don't have one.
Do you want this monarch to make it appear out of thin air? I don't believe you. Yang Kai swept a glance over the space rings on their fingers. Unless you let me examine your rings. The faces of the high-rank Open Heaven Realm Masters fell. Tizheng stared coldly at Yang Kai and snapped, Brat, do you know what you're talking about? Are you going to agree to it or not? Yang Kai sneered and gazed arrogantly at him. Fine. I don't want to see your rings anymore. Let's go back to Voidland. I don't believe I'll never get a high-ranking element treasure in my lifetime. Then, he seemed ready to bring everyone back home in a resolute manner. Tizheng questioned, Are you going to let Lan Yu Rua perish here? Yang Kai shot him a glance. You'd better pray that she's safe. If anything happens to her, I'll destroy Myriad Demons' heaven right after I ascend to the 9th Order. I'll remember what you've done to me and visit all of you one by one when the time comes. I hope you'll still be able to laugh by then. Impudence! Tizheng roared. Wait a moment, little friend Yang. Another high-rank Open Heaven Realm Master suddenly spoke up. His voice suggested that he was pretty old now. Yang Kai shot him a cold glance. What now?
The old voice was heard saying, since you're a half-step Open Heaven Realm Master, it must have been quite some time since you started cultivating. So, you should know that a space ring is the most personal possession to a cultivator and it mustn't be examined by anyone else easily. If you want to inspect our rings, it's no different from humiliating us. We've lived for a long time, so we do have a reputation to preserve. Yang Kai scoffed. You four are high-rank Open Heaven Realm Masters, but you joined forces and plotted against an Emperor Realm cultivator like me. I'm surprised to learn that you actually still care about your reputation. The old voice replied impassively, if you were on your own, all of us wouldn't have shown up. However, since you have some powerful protectors, we have no choice but to come all the way here. But now is not the time to talk about such things. What this old master means is, we can let you examine our rings to prove to you that we didn't lie to you. We really don't have the 6th Order in element treasure you need. However, what if you still don't find any 6th Order in element treasure after going through all of our rings? What do you want? Yang Kai questioned. The old voice said, since you want to humiliate us, we can't possibly bear it for nothing. There's a price you have to pay, little friend. Yang Kai swept an impassive glance over them and frowned. After giving it a thought, he suddenly said through clenched teeth, I don't believe that you don't have a 6th Order in element material, but if I still can't find one after examining all of your rings, I'll ascend to the 5th Order. His expression was that of a gambler who had lost it all. Upon hearing that, all of them were stunned. And anxious he said, you can't do that, young master. Yang Kai was unable to ascend to the 7th Order Open Heaven Realm, so the 6th Order was supposed to be his bottom line. The 5th Order was totally unacceptable. If he ascended to the 5th Order, the highest limit for him would be the 7th Order in the future. In other words, the end of Yang Kai's martial Dao was his initial starting point. The disparity between expectation and reality was too great to bear. Bai Qi said, You mustn't ascend to the 5th Order, Yang Kai. Chu Huashang also dissuaded him from doing so. Yang Kai put on a bitter smile. I can't ascend to the 7th Order, and there isn't a 6th Order in element treasure now. What can I do if I don't ascend to the 5th Order? Wait for them to get the item I want from the Shattered Heaven Star City? Who knows what could happen to Proprietress in 1 month? We can't wait any longer. As he spoke, he secretly winked at Yu He. Do you remember that thing I have? Yu He, who was about to dissuade him again, became startled as she suddenly thought of something. That's right. Young Master still has that thing. With that item in his possession, it makes no difference whether he ascends to the 5th Order or 6th Order. He can even use this to trick others into believing that he'll only become a 5th Order Open Heaven Realm Master and stop them from targeting him. In that case, it's not necessarily a bad thing. On the other hand, Tizheng and the others exchanged glances as they appeared ecstatic. Even though a 5th Order Open Heaven Realm Master was fairly powerful in the 3,000 worlds, such a person was nothing in the eyes of these high-rank Open Heaven Realm Masters. If Yongkai really ascended to the Fifth Order, it was something worth celebrating for the great forces behind them.
A Fifth Order Open Heaven Realm Master would never be able to move the world order. For a cultivator who had the hopes of becoming a Seventh Order Open Heaven Realm Master to end up in such a state, it was no different from killing him. Instead of ending his life, they had killed his future. Tizheng's gaze brightened as he asked, "Are you serious?" Yongkai gazed at him with a tilted head. "You look happy, don't you?" Tizheng coughed. "Not really. However, a wise man knows when to submit to the circumstances. This monarch is gratified that you've made such a decision." "Cut the nonsense," Yongkai replied dispassionately. Tizheng and the others then secretly spoke to each other. Certainly, they were sure that they didn't have a Sixth Order in element material. Even if Yongkai wanted to examine their rings, they weren't afraid. Although it was humiliating for these high-rank Open Heaven Realm Masters to let an Emperor Realm Junior examine their space rings, it was better than remaining in this stalemate forever. It was especially true for Tizheng. He was injured in the battle against Zhu Jiuyin, so he desperately needed a quiet place to recuperate and stabilize his small universe. Otherwise, he might be left with some potential issues later. The others were in a better state, but they were also wounded.
Moreover, as high-rank Open Heaven Realm Masters, they didn't want to keep wasting time on Yongkai anymore. By settling this issue as soon as possible, they could go back and tell everyone that they had achieved their goal. Therefore, they soon came to an agreement.
Tizheng scolded, "Brat, we all agree that we'll let you examine our rings. However, if you can't find any Sixth Order in element materials, you must not go back on your word. Otherwise, we'll kill you right here, even if we have to face the Dragon Clan's wrath." Yongkai sneered, "Don't worry. Even though I'm just an Emperor Realm cultivator, I value my reputation. Unlike some other people, I'll never go back on my word." Then he spread his palm. "Pass me your rings. Oh, take out everything from your small universes as well. I know that the small universes of high-rank Open Heaven Realm Masters like you all must have materialized. Not only can you store some stuff inside it, but you can also let some living creatures live inside it." Tizheng and the others sported dark expressions. However, things had come to a point that they didn't want to argue with Yongkai anymore. Therefore, they fished out a number of things from their small universes and put them inside their space rings. Obviously, Yongkai was unable to find out whether they had actually taken everything out, unless he could also inspect the small universes in their bodies. However, that would never happen. Tizheng and the others had made a concession by letting Yongkai go through their space rings. But there was no way they'd let anyone probe their small universes, or else they'd be risking their lives. Even if they had some precious items stashed in their small universes, they wouldn't put them into their space rings. Yongkai was fully aware of that. Soon, their space rings fell into Yongkai's hands. The restrictions on the rings had been erased so that he could easily examine them. When Yongkai scanned one of the rings with his divine sense, he couldn't help raising his brow. The wealth of a high-rank Open Heaven Realm Master was truly astonishing. Open Heaven pills had been piled up like mountains, and there were countless resources, which included many Sixth Order ones. There was even one Seventh Order material in this particular ring. The number of artifacts in the ring was mind-blowing as well. He didn't have time to go through them one by one, but Yongkai reckoned that the resources in this ring were worth more than 10 billion Open Heaven pills.
Obviously, that wasn't all this man's wealth. The truly precious items must be kept inside his small universe. Unfortunately, none of the Sixth Order and Seventh Order materials were yin or yang. Yongkai set the ring aside and looked at the next, finding it to be about the same. Tizheng and the others were just standing nearby as they watched Yongkai joyfully go through all the rings. All of them found it odd as they never expected that things would develop into such a situation. Their initial goal was to kill Yongkai in this place. However, not only was Yongkai alive and kicking, but they would also have to help him ascend to the Open Heaven realm. Besides that, they had also passed their space rings to him to inspect. What they had done was no different from financially supporting their enemy. Nevertheless, they could not object. Although they were high-rank Open Heaven realm masters who had lived for many years, it was the first time they had such a strange experience. It only took Yongkai a short time to examine all of the rings. Tizheng asked, "Now you know we didn't lie to you." Yongkai looked up and roared,
The heavens are unfair. Upon seeing that he appeared crestfallen, Tizhang and the others felt less frustrated. Since they had confronted and attempted to kill each other before, there wasn't a need for them to be polite to him. Tizhang said, "In that case, you should give our rings back to us." Yang Kai nonchalantly tossed the space rings at Yu He and kept only a bottle that was half his height. They were too gullible to think that he would return the rings to them. Yang Kai had relented and agreed to become a sixth-order open heaven realm master. But since he didn't have the item he needed, he could only lower his expectation and ascend to the fifth order. With the existence of a particular item he possessed, it made no difference whether he ascended to the fifth order or the sixth order, and he would be able to deceive the outside world. However, there was a price to pay if he wanted to use that precious treasure. The thing was so valuable that the space rings of these high-rank open heaven realm masters could only be considered as a slight compensation for it. There was no way he would give the rings back to them, for he still had Voidland to run. Even though he had a star city to help gather resources, he wouldn't mind more good things. "You dare covet our space rings?" Tijin glared at Yang Kai. He was so exasperated that he laughed and nodded. "Very good. You're indeed bold enough." Ignoring him, Yang Kai fiddled with the bottle and shook it. As he listened to the ringing sound coming from the bottle, he asked, "Is this the heavenly insan that you'd mentioned?" Presently, Tijun was fuming within him, so upon hearing the question, he snorted and did not reply to him. In fact, the moment he passed the space ring to Yang Kai, he had a feeling that he would never get it back. However, he was incensed at the fact that the young man did it in such a brazen way. It was apparent that he had no regard for them at all. Yang Kai gazed at Tijung and questioned, "Are you deaf? Is this the heavenly insan?" Tijung looked away and pretended that he didn't hear him. Yang Kai said smilingly, "It seems that it's not heavenly insan. I won't break through then." Upon hearing that, Tijung glowered at him and said through clenched teeth, "Don't you cross the line, Yang Kai?" The faint smile on Yang Kai's face made Tijung have the urge to give him a punch. After taking a deep breath, he said, "Heavenly insan is extremely hard to come by. It's one of the rarest among the fifth-order materials. It's just that it isn't a sixth-order material. However, the divine ability you'll obtain through this item is as powerful as that of most sixth-order powers once you condense it. The one in your hands was meant for another disciple in my great force. I have no choice but to give it to you." Yang Kai snorted. "I was supposed to ascend to the seventh-order open heaven realm, but I can only make do with the fifth order because of you all. Who is the one taking advantage here?" Tijung fell silent. "Forget it. I'm not in the mood to bicker with you." Yang Kai lightly threw the bottle into the air and said to Zhu Jiuyin, "Please stand guard for me, senior." After a moment of silence, Zhu Jiuyin reminded, "Brat, this is an important matter, so you must think it through." Yang Kai replied with a bitter smile, "I'm like an arrow on the string now. There's no going back for me." If he went back on his word at this point, he was basically forcing Tijang and the others to fight to the death with him. They had Zhu Jiuyin's protection, so they would easily escape from this place, but they wouldn't stand a chance to save the proprietress. Furthermore, Zhu Jiuyin had been wounded after the previous battle. Presently, she looked pretty battered as was covered in blood. "Forget it. It's your own matter and no one else can interfere. I hope you won't regret your decision in the future." After she finished speaking, she flicked her fingers as threads of spider silk crisscrossed each other in the void, forming an impenetrable web which covered a large area except for the spot Yang Kai was in. If Tijang and the others wanted to harm Yang Kai, they had to break her web first. Tijang and the others had experienced how horrendous this heaven-covering web was, so they didn't dare to fall into it again. "Young master." Yuhi's eyes reddened as she pressed her lips together. She seemed to be holding back her words. Yang Kai waved his hand, "All of you stand back." Then he gently closed his eyes and thought to himself, "Will I regret my decision?" If it were for any other reason, he probably would. However, since he was doing this to save proprietress, he didn't think there would come a day when he felt regretful. As he emptied his mind, he calmed himself and sat cross-legged in the center of the heaven-covering web. His aura was curbed while he remained unmoving, as though he had fallen into a state of deep sleep. Upon seeing that, Yu-He and the others knew that it was pointless for them to say anything else, so they spread out and stood guard for Yang Kai in nearby spots. They stared vigilantly at Tizhang and the others to prevent them from disturbing Yang Kai while he achieved his breakthrough.
It was completely silent in the void. All of them were paying close attention to Yang Kai as they tended their wounds. Time went by slowly, and half a day later, Yang Kai suddenly opened his eyes and flicked the bottle. Following a clang, the cap flew up as a ray of light shot out of the bottle.
It was apparent that the ray of light was made up from countless grains of sand. Every grain exuded a light glow and an extremely cold aura. They looked just like a galaxy that had been shrunk down innumerable times. Heavenly sand was indeed one of the best materials in the Fifth Order. As soon as it appeared, the void seemed to have been frozen over as a layer of frost formed on Yang Kai's clothes and hair. Instead of resisting, Yang Kai circulated his secret art and pushed his Dao seal to refine the Yin element power in the heavenly Yin sand. At that instant, the galaxy formed from the sand seemed to have been attracted by a mysterious force as it swirled and danced around Yang Kai. Looking from afar, it was as if he was engulfed in a storm of silver rain. Yang Kai had refined other element powers before, the last one being the Golden Wolf King's monster core, which was a 7th order metal element treasure. Although the heavenly Yin sand was extraordinary for its order, it wasn't comparable to that monster core at all. Tizhang and the others stared intently outside the heaven-covering web. Upon seeing that Yang Kai had started refining the 5th order heavenly Yin sand, they breathed a sigh of relief. Once the process started, it couldn't be stopped. That was because Yang Kai's Dao seal had been affected by the Yin element power in the heavenly Yin sand as he built his open heaven realm foundation. There was nothing else he could do to reverse it unless he used something like Tai soul cleansing water to wipe clean his Dao seal. However, in that case, all his previous efforts would also be erased. Initially, they were worried that Yang Kai might go back on his word. After all, if they were him, they would never be willing to ascend to the 5th order open heaven realm when they had a chance to make it to the 7th order open heaven realm directly. Therefore, they wouldn't be surprised even if he went back on his word at the last moment. However, his action at this moment suggested that he was truly determined. Therefore, they admired the fact that he was able to leave his aspiration behind and make do with such an inferior result. Throughout history, only a small number of people were able to directly ascend to the 7th order. Given such a chance, Tizheng and the others reckoned that they would never give it up, but Yang Kai could do that. He's indeed a loyal brat. One of the high-rank open heaven realm masters gently nodded. What a shame. Another person shook his head. It wasn't certain whether he felt sorry for the fact that Yang Kai had to waste his aptitude or something else. Although they were the ones who forced Yang Kai to take such an action, they still felt sympathetic when they saw him do it. Tizhang put on a smile. There's nothing to feel sorry about since we can't use him. The person who spoke earlier gave it a thought and nodded. You're right. The last person fell silent for a moment before uttering. This brat's Dao seal is indeed very sturdy. Don't you think the speed at which he's refining the heavenly Yin sand is too fast? Upon hearing that, all of them immediately turned to look at Yang Kai. Just like what their colleague had said, the speed at which Yang Kai was refining the heavenly Yin sand was outrageously fast. The glowing grains of sand could be seen dimming at a rate visible to the naked eye. Given his speed, it would only take him 1 or 2 days to fully refine the heavenly Yin sand. All of them were stunned as this was a 5th order Yin element treasure. Its order was neither too high nor too low. Usually, it would take an average open heaven realm master a few months to refine it. For someone with a great aptitude, it would still take him 10 days to half a month. The fact that Yang Kai was able to do it in 1 or 2 days was unbelievable. This outcome suggested that Yang Kai's Dao seal was extremely sturdy, so the impact of the 5th order in element power penetrating his body was almost negligible. That was the reason he was able to refine it without any concern. All of them were high-rank open heaven realm masters who had lived for a long time and seen many gifted people, but none of those people were comparable to Yang Kai. Although they couldn't inspect his Dao seal, they believed it was far more robust than that of anyone else just by looking at the speed he was refining the heavenly Yin sand. A person with a sturdy Dao seal was able to condense element powers swiftly, and there was only a minimal risk for him to ascend to the open heaven realm. Coupled with the fact that Yang Kai had heavenly Yuan seal stabilizing pills, it could be said that it was practically risk-free for him to ascend to the 5th order open heaven realm. Now, the crux of the matter was how strong the foundation of his small universe would be after he achieved his ascension. With a strong foundation, he would become powerful in the future and vice versa.
Nevertheless, he would still be just a fifth-order open heaven realm master, so it wouldn't matter regardless of how strong his foundation would be. While Tijing and the others were paying close attention to Yang Kai, Zhujiu, Yin, and her companions were staring vigilantly at the other party.
On the other hand, Yang Kai was focused on refining the heavenly Yin sand in the center of heaven-covering web. A sense of coldness penetrated his physique through his pores before converging in his Dao seal under his guidance. The powers of metal, wood, water, fire, earth, and yang had already gathered together in his Dao seal, so he needed only one more. As he absorbed the Yin element power from the heavenly Yin sand, his Dao seal gradually became complete. The Yin, Yang, and 5 element powers mutually supported and suppressed one another as they formed an endless cycle in his body. The power of the cycle clashed within his Dao seal, and following every collision, there seemed to be a bell that rang loudly in his body, which shook his very soul. Initially, this kind of movement was still not conspicuous, but as Yang Kai refined more of the Yin element power, the movement became increasingly violent. When Yang Kai refined his metal element power, thus gathering all 5 element powers previously, he realized that a crack had appeared in his Dao seal. He was shocked as he thought that something had gone wrong with his cultivation. However, he couldn't feel there were any problems with him. Be it cultivating or using his strength, he faced no obstacles at all. Instead, he felt that his power had increased after he condensed the metal element power. Still worried, he asked Yuhi about it. It was then he learned that when a cultivator ascended to the open heaven realm, his Dao seal would break apart to allow his own grand Dao to merge with the 7 elements to form his small universe. Nevertheless, the average cultivator would only see his Dao seal cracking when ascending to the open heaven realm, but such an incident happened to Yang Kai in advance. Perhaps the order of the elements he had condensed was too high, leading to such a result.
Regardless, this was a good thing for him. Anyone who wished to ascend to the open heaven realm had to go through this trial. If he couldn't successfully integrate his grand Dao with his small universe, his ascension would fail. Since Yang Kai's Dao seal had started cracking earlier, things would become easier when he attempted his breakthrough. As he condensed more of the Yin element power, more cracks started appearing on his Dao seal, as though it would collapse at any moment. At the same time, a chaotic aura started exuding from Yang Kai, who was seated in the center of heaven-covering web. Anyone who noticed this aura would be stunned as they stared fixedly at Yang Kai. All of them were open heaven realm masters who had tread the same path, so they were aware that it was the most critical moment for Yang Kai. Before heaven and earth split apart, there was only chaos. It was apparent that Yang Kai was on the brink of achieving his breakthrough. So far, it had only been 1 day since he started refining the heavenly Yin sand. Anyone could see that the heavenly Yin sand, which looked like a swirling galaxy, had lost all its glow and spirituality. That was because the Yin element power within it had been fully absorbed. There was no doubt that Yang Kai was a genius. Even the high-rank open heaven realm masters were unable to refine a 5th-order material in a day, not to mention a mere Emperor Realm Jr. A mysterious power trembled violently within Yang Kai's body.
With him as the center, visible ripples were seen spreading out in a regular manner. Since all the power in the heavenly Yin sand had been refined, it turned into dust and scattered with the wind as soon as it came into contact with these ripples. Meanwhile, all of Yang Kai's skin had reddened as his chaotic aura became even more conspicuous. He felt like he had been trapped inside a thick membrane, as though he had returned to his mother's womb. He was restricted in every way, which made him feel extremely unpleasant. Inside his Dao seal, Yin, Yang, and 5 element powers moved in a cyclical manner as they clashed with Yang Kai. Following every collision, he felt his soul shuddering violently. Not only was he unable to make his mind focus, but he also couldn't control one bit of his energy.
Yang Kai was flabbergasted as it was only now that he realized how dangerous the process of ascending to the open heaven realm really was. If he wasn't careful enough, he would instantly lose his life.
His Dao seal was pretty sturdy to begin with, and he had consumed a lot of divine Dao water which fortified his Dao seal to the point that there was no room for improvement. It could be said that within the half-step open heaven realm, no one was a match for him when it came to the sturdiness of their Dao seal. Every time he condensed a high-rank element power, his Dao seal would be bombarded by that same power. Fortunately, he managed to endure each time. When he finally completed his Dao seal with the Yin element power this time, he realized that the collisions he had experienced in the past were nothing compared to what he was going through now. The powers in his body, except for the fifth order Yin element power he had just refined, were all high-rank powers. As they clashed with Xianxia in succession, he felt his body and soul shuddering. Only when the Yin element power collided with him did he feel an almost negligible impact. He had to face such a difficult trial even though he was just ascending to the fifth order open heaven realm. If he really attempted to make it to the seventh order open heaven realm, the difficulty he would have had to face would be far greater. It was no wonder that only a small number of people had managed to directly break through to the seventh order open heaven realm throughout history. Even if someone had condensed the requisite high-rank elements like Xianxia, they might still lose their life at this last step. As more cracks appeared on Xianxia's Dao seal, it seemed that it would break apart soon. However, he realized that he was still unable to get rid of this thick restrictive membrane around him, and even his mind seemed to be lost in a foggy state. What was worse, the chaotic aura was increasingly thickening. All of a sudden, Xianxia came to the realization that if he couldn't break through the barrier after his Dao seal exploded, he would fall into danger. At this life and death moment, he became calm instead as he attentively sensed the chaotic aura and let the powers of Yin, Yang, and the five elements clash with his Dao seal without restraint. He still had some heavenly Yuan seal stabilizing pills, but he hadn't planned on using any of them. It was a good idea to use a spirit pill to assist his ascension, but it wouldn't be as rewarding as if he achieved the ascension through his own perseverance. He had initially intended to ascend to the seventh order open heaven realm directly, but now he had to make do with the fifth order. If he still needed to use a heavenly Yuan seal stabilizing pill now, it would only mean he wasn't gifted after all. In the past, he had consumed a fair amount of world source liquid, allowing him to sense the magnificence of heaven and earth splitting apart. However, he realized that he couldn't recall most of the details now. Still, he would never forget that innate feeling. As time passed, everyone could see that Xianxia's skin was alternating between red, white, and blue. That was the result of the powers of Yin, Yang, and the five elements weltering in his body. The primordial elements of the universe turned in an endless cycle, supporting and suppressing one another as the chaotic aura around Xianxia thickened by the breath. One could see that Xianxia had been engulfed by very thick fog, which couldn't be peered through even using one's divine sense. Yuhi was on pins and needles as she stared fixedly at the fog while Bai Qi balled up his fists and hoped that Xianxia would succeed. To the side, Chu Huashang was secretly praying for him. As Zhu Jiuyin watched coldly, she couldn't help but mutter, "What is this smelly brat doing? Is it really so difficult to ascend to the fifth order open heaven realm? If this brat can't break through the fog of chaos, he'll definitely lose his life." An old voice was heard coming from one of the four high-rank open heaven realm masters. Tizhang and the others exchanged glances as they felt that they had probably overestimated Xianxia's potential. He was going through so much danger, although he was just ascending to the fifth order open heaven realm, so it probably wouldn't have mattered even if they allowed him to obtain a seventh order Yin element treasure. Based on their observation, if Xianxia really attempted to achieve the seventh order open heaven realm, he wouldn't stand a chance of succeeding. The chaotic aura around Xianxia was so thick that it had engulfed him entirely. Looking from afar, they felt as though he had been covered in a large cocoon that totally obscured his figure. Inside the cocoon, Xianxia was completely at ease, as he silently felt the chaotic aura and the state before heaven and earth split apart. It was as though he had traveled through time and returned to the beginning of history when there was still nothing but chaos. Just then, cracking sounds were heard coming from his heart as his Dao seal began to shatter. The Dao seal was the very core of an Emperor Realm cultivator, as it was the essence of their cultivation. When the Dao seal broke apart, it meant that their grand Dao also started dispersing. If this Dao essence wasn't quickly integrated into a small universe, the consequences would be dreadful. Therefore, before the Dao seal completely collapsed, a small universe had to take shape. In order to achieve that, one had to break through the chaos by splitting heaven and earth apart in their body. melding the 7 elements together into a new world. At this life and death moment, Yang Kai seemed to be oblivious to the situation he was in. He couldn't help recalling the moment his body was destroyed by great demon god Emoshang. It was the final battle between the star boundary and the demon realm. In order to win that battle, all the masters from the star boundary, including all the great emperors, waged war against great demon god. It was in that battle that Yang Kai lost his life under a horrifying attack from the great demon god. If it weren't for the immortal tree, he wouldn't have stood a chance to be reborn. It could be said that he was someone who had died and come back to life before, so he knew better than anyone else about the cycle of life or death. Most other people wouldn't have a chance to experience dying and then being reborn. All of a sudden, a realization dawned upon Yang Kai as he felt that he gained enlightenment. All life starts with chaos and returns to chaos in the end. What is life? What is death? That doesn't matter. One will only realize life or death if he's aware of it. There is no life or death if he knows nothing of it. What is reality? What is an illusion? There are no boundaries in this world. All is a construct of one's mind. As his murmur was heard coming from the cocoon, there seemed to be a spiritual light that penetrated his mind and broke through the thick fog, which allowed him to see a glimmer of the future. At the same time, the chaotic aura around Yang Kai seemed to have been seized by an invisible hand as it stopped churning entirely. Just 3 breaths later, a crack appeared on the chaos cocoon, and soon after, it was covered in cracks. The aura of heaven and earth exuded from it as a brand new world was taking shape, and through the cracks, Yang Kai's own world force began to permeate. Hong! The void shook. The cocoon shattered all of a sudden and revealed Yang Kai's figure. His eyes were still tightly closed as he remained seated with his legs crossed in the void. However, there was a storm swirling around him, which made his clothes and hair flap in the wind. The Tao seal in his body completely shattered, but there wasn't a risk of his grand Tao collapsing. That was because at this exact moment, his newly formed small universe absorbed this grand Tao and integrated with it. Chaos was broken and a new world was born. At that moment, the illusory image of a small universe manifested behind Yang Kai's back. It was his very own world that had just taken shape. Tizheng narrowed his eyes and spoke up. He actually succeeded. He was puzzled as he could see that Yang Kai was about to be consumed by the swirling chaos just now. However, he somehow managed to break through that fog at the last moment and enter the open heaven realm. He didn't understand what Yang Kai had gone through during that life and death moment. Only Yang Kai knew exactly what had happened. The moment the small universe appeared, Tizheng exerted more power with his eyes in an attempt to peer into it. Unfortunately, the heaven-covering web was still in place, so he was unable to see it clearly even though he was a 7th-order open heaven realm master. Upon seeing that Yang Kai had advanced to the open heaven realm, Zhu Jiuyin breathed a sigh of relief, but the next moment she was stunned as she gazed forward with a frown. That was because instead of immediately consolidating his newly formed small universe, Yang Kai actually turned his hand over and revealed a rounded bead. Zhu Jiuyin immediately recognized that it was his sealed world bead. She knew that there was an independent world inside this bead, but she had never entered it due to it not being able to withstand her immense power. What's this brat trying to do by taking his sealed world bead out at this point? While she was wondering, she saw Yang Kai's body shake as his small universe's illusory image appeared behind him again. Following that, he nonchalantly tossed his small world bead into his small universe. Zhu Jiuyin's brows twitched as she exclaimed, "What the hell are you doing, you crazy brat?" Yang Kai opened his eyes and grinned at her. "Just taking a little gamble." Zhu Jiuyin felt her chest tightening while Bai Qi and the others widened their mouths in disbelief. Their expressions changed when they realized Yang Kai's intention. While they were staring anxiously at him, Yang Kai performed a hand seal and shouted, "Open." Following his shout, the sealed world bead exploded inside his small universe. The bead had been with Yang Kai for many, many years, and it had helped him overcome numerous dangers. It could be said that the sealed world bead was one of the most important treasures throughout his cultivation journey. At this moment, the bead had completed its last duty and detonated following Yang Kai's order. Following that, the small universe's illusory phantom trembled violently because it was suffering from a huge impact that was coming from the collapsed small sealed world. Although the sealed world bead looked like a small rounded bead, it contained an entire world within it. At this moment, it was exploding within Yang Kai's small universe, so the immense impact could be imagined. If Yang Kai was unable to bear such an impact, his newly formed small universe would be destroyed, and he would most likely lose his life. There was no doubt that this was an extremely risky move because he was making a bet on his small universe and the sealed world bead. Once he failed, he would lose everything. However, if he succeeded, the sealed world bead would integrate into his small universe and the benefits he would receive would be inconceivable. Putting the newly formed small universe aside for now, the landmass in the small sealed world was quite expansive. When the blood monster cave heaven collapsed, Yang Kai had collected many of its fragments and stored them inside the bead. Each fragment contained the heritage left behind by a deceased 8-order open heaven realm master. At that time, countless open heaven realm masters were trying to snatch these spirit province fragments. Yang Kai was weak, so he could only collect a few pieces. Usually, even an open heaven realm master wouldn't dare to absorb these fragments into their small universe, unless their aura was extremely similar to that of the blood monster divine monarch. The consequences of forcefully doing this would be akin to poisoning oneself. Yang Kai didn't have to worry about it as he had the small sealed world to act as a filter. Over the years, the small sealed world had fully assimilated the aura of those fragments, which significantly strengthened the heritage within the bead. Furthermore, Yang Kai wasn't doing this on a whim. In fact, a long time ago, he had already planned on merging his sealed world bead with his small universe while he was breaking through to the open heaven realm. Others didn't have such an option, but it was different for him. Both the small universe and the small sealed world were part of Yang Kai's heritage, with the latter having been thoroughly painted with his aura, so there was absolutely no conflict when merging the two. However, the problem he was facing now was the impact that had been inflicted on his small universe after the small sealed world literally exploded. As long as he could get through this trial, he would be able to achieve his goal. The task was as difficult as ascending to the open heaven realm. The illusory image behind him continuously expanded as Zhu Jiuyin and the others watched, their hearts pounding against their chests. Tizhang and the others were puzzled as they didn't know what Yang Kai had done to make this kind of scene. They had been paying close attention to Yang Kai since the beginning, but after he achieved his breakthrough, all they saw was him toss some kind of bead into his small universe, and then this happened. What in the world was that bead? Although they couldn't look into what was going on exactly, the ever-expanding illusory phantom suggested that Yang Kai's small universe was experiencing an unimaginable impact. Yang Kai sported a solemn expression as he repeatedly used different hand seals and focused on controlling his strength to stabilize his small universe while merging it with the collapsed small sealed world as soon as possible. Inside his newly formed small universe, bolts of lightning flashed across the sky as a great thunderstorm blew through it, as if it was the end of the world. Mu Zhu and Mu Lu hugged each other tightly as they trembled in the medicine garden. These two petite wood spirits had always lived inside the medicine garden in the small sealed world. When trying to assimilate the small sealed world, Yang Kai didn't release them as he already had a plan in mind. Although it appeared even more perilous than when he was ascending to the open heaven realm, everything was well within his control. From time to time, Yang Kai would roar as the illusory image behind him expanded and contorted. However, as time passed, things were showing signs of improvement as the illusory phantom became more stable. Just like what Yang Kai had expected, everything was going well. The small universe was formed by splitting heaven and earth apart when he was attempting a breakthrough. On the other hand, the sealed world bead had been with him for years, so he was able to control every part of the small sealed world as he pleased. That was why everything fell into place, as there was no conflict when merging the two. His Tao seal had already fallen apart as it turned into Tao essence, which filled the entire small universe. As time passed, the thunderstorm calmed and the illusory phantom behind Yang Kai stabilized, its violent energy fluctuations dissipating. All the commotion died down. An open heaven realm's aura swirled around Yang Kai. That was indeed a fifth-order open heaven realm master's aura. Every new open heaven realm master had to go through this phase, and it would take them some time to fortify their cultivation and consolidate their aura so they could take it out and retract it at will. Yang Kai was now an open heaven realm master. He had come a long way and encountered countless dangerous incidents. Finally, he took this vital important step.
His emotions undulated in his heart, and as he recalled everything that he had gone through, he couldn't help but let out a long roar to express his excitement. His roar was so loud that the entire void seemed to be shaking. It wasn't until this moment that he had time to examine his own small universe. Sending his consciousness inwards, the entire small universe appeared in his mind. The first thing he could see was a gigantic ancient tree. The tree crown stretched out like a colossal umbrella and seemed to cover the entire sky. Extremely rich vitality exuded from every part of the tree as it breathed life into the small universe. At that instant, Xianxia realized that it was the manifestation of his towering evergreen divine manifestation in his small universe. He comprehended the towering evergreen from his wood element power, which was derived from the immortal tree's essence. Therefore, the manifestation of this divine manifestation had something to do with the immortal tree. Upon realizing that there was a shadow beneath the tree, Xianxia became startled for a moment before looking up. There, a dazzling golden sun hung in the sky. Caws sounded as there seemed to be a three-legged exotic bird flying around inside the sun. The shadow under the tree was caused by the great sun's glow. It was the manifestation of his golden crow casts the sun. Xianxia arched his brow as he hadn't expected his small universe to look like this. Besides that, he seemed to understand something at that moment. As his thoughts flashed, time in the small universe seemed to accelerate rapidly. The radiant sun in the sky traveled across the sky, disappearing beyond the horizon as a bright moon rose from the opposite side. The manifestation of water reflects the moon seemed to have cast a silvery glow on the entire small universe, giving it an ethereal ambience. There was a golden wolf standing atop a certain mountain as it howled at the moon. Apart from that, innumerable stars could be seen twinkling in the sky. The round moon was the manifestation of Xianxia's water element power, while the golden wolf was the manifestation of his metal element power. As for the stars, they were the representation of the heavenly sand that he had just refined. As his thoughts flashed, Xianxia was able to make the sun and moon cycle in succession. A strange feeling filled his heart as at that instant he realized that his comprehension of the Tao of time had improved significantly. He had always been a novice when it came to his studies of the Tao of time, and that was only thanks to him having learned the time flies seal, without which he couldn't even have comprehended the basics of time principles. However, after such a long time, he was still considered a beginner in the Tao of time. That was because most of his time was spent on the comprehension of the Tao of space. First of all, he didn't have a natural aptitude when it came to the studies of Tao of time, so it would be quite time-consuming if he insisted on learning it. Secondly, his time was limited, so he had to focus on one grand Tao. There were countless grand Taos in the universe, but while being versed in many had its advantages, mastering one was still a better choice. Nevertheless, at this moment, the Tao of time was like a generous elder who opened up to him and taught him all kinds of skills and knowledge, tremendously enhancing Xianxia's comprehension of it. The reason behind that was the formation of his small universe. He knew nothing about other people's small universes, but presently, there were sun, moon, and stars in his small universe. As these celestial objects that moved in an endless cycle, like a flowing river of time. His entire small universe was filled with ample time principles, which was how he obtained such tremendous benefits. There was no doubt that it was a pleasant surprise. As his thoughts continued flowing through his mind, he saw Mu Zhu and Mu Lu sitting together on the tree branch of a certain spirit tree in the transplanted medicine garden. As their heads pressed against one another, they swung their legs and looked dazedly at the starry night sky. While the stars twinkled, they also batted their eyes. Mu Lu remarked, "It's beautiful." Mu Zhu uttered, "And it's wonderful." In the past, although the small sealed world was an independent world of its own, they had never seen such a magnificent view before. Now everything had changed. Since these wood spirits started following Xianxia and settled in the small sealed world, they had never seen such a wonderful night sky. The sight before their eyes made them recall the time they grew up in the star boundary. Back then, they always loved to sit together and enjoy the mesmerizing night view. Xianxia retracted his mind and sported a solemn expression. The situation Mu Zhu and Mu Lu were in suggested that his small universe was able to accommodate living creatures, which was contrary to common sense. In the 3,000 worlds, only the small universes of high-rank open heaven realm masters were fully corporeal,
akin to real universe worlds. Presently, Xianxia was only a 5th-order open heaven realm master, which was 2 orders below the requisite 7th order. 2 orders was a massive gap that countless cultivators failed to surmount in their lifetime. Although one could slowly cultivate over time, it would take them a painfully long period as well as many fortunate changes to achieve this goal. However, Xianxia wasn't surprised at the outcome. If he attempted to break through like everyone else, his small universe would have become the same as those of other people. However, the moment his small universe was formed upon his ascension, he integrated his sealed world bead into his small universe, leading to this incredible transformation.
The sealed world bead was already able to accommodate living creatures, but due to the limitations of its grade, it was unable to take in open heaven realm masters without the risk of exploding.
After the sealed world bead merged with his small universe, the new small universe inherited the characteristics of the sealed world bead. Accommodating living creatures was just one part of that.
Moreover, there were sun, moon, and stars inside Xianxia's small universe, giving it a day and night cycle. Yin, Yang, and the 5 elements formed into a virtuous cycle. The grand Tao and world principles inside it were incredibly complete.
Basically, his small universe was no different from a real universe world. Even the small universe of a high-rank open heaven realm master might not be as perfect as his.
The great sun was a divine manifestation he had comprehended after refining the golden crow's true fire, while the moon was the manifestation of the water element power he refined from the moon essence.
If someone wanted to reproduce his success, they would have to refine the golden crow's true fire and moon essence as well. However, it was extremely difficult to refine the golden crow's true fire and moon essence, both of which were high-rank materials. One of them was scorching while the other was freezing. Either of them could easily kill a cultivator who absorbed them haphazardly. In the entire 3,000 worlds, probably only Xianxia's small universe contained the sun and moon that rose and set. Upon seeing that Xianxia was grinning from ear to ear, Zhu Jiuyin couldn't help but scoff. Why are you so ecstatic when you've only ascended to the 5th order open heaven realm? Can you be more ambitious, you smelly brat? It was then Xianxia opened his eyes and cupped his fist with a solemn expression. Many thanks for your protection, senior. If Zhu Jiuyin hadn't tagged along, he would have been dead by now. Since 4 high-rank cultivators were waiting for him in this place, he would have had no hope of surviving. In front of absolute power, all strategy was meaningless.
From today forward, I consider your oath fulfilled, senior. Since Zhu Jiuyin had fulfilled her promise, Xianxia certainly wouldn't go back on his word.
Some time ago, he said that as long as she could escort him to this place, her oath would be completed regardless of whether he survived or not. From now on, she no longer had to protect him. Zhu Jiuyin snorted. Save your platitudes. This queen is fully aware of that. Then, Xianxia turned to look at Chu Huashang and thanked. Many thanks, Senior Sister Chu. Chu Huashang shook her head with a bitter smile. I wasn't able to help you in any way. Xianxia shook his head. Simply coming with me is already more than I could have asked for, Senior Sister Chu. He knew that when she returned to Inyang Cave Heaven, she would be punished. After all, she had jumped in to interfere when those from Myriad Demons Heaven were dealing with Xianxia. Since she was a core disciple of Inyang Cave Heaven, she was in all essence a representative of her sect. Her actions this time had tarnished her sect's reputation.
Following that, Xianxia gazed at Yuhi and said, Please take care of Voidland. A startled Yuhi subconsciously asked, Where are you going, young master? Without responding to her, Xianxia put on a smile before he pressed his palms together and pulled them apart as he shouted, Open. As space principles undulated, a huge crack suddenly appeared in front of them. The aura of another world exuded from the crack. Naturally, it was the aura of the shadowless cave heaven.
Tizhang was right to say that there was a restriction around this universe cave heaven that would bar anyone below the open heaven realm from entering. Although Xianxia had found the entrance using space principles earlier, he could feel that there was a force that stopped him from entering it. Upon ascending to the 5th order open heaven realm, he realized that the force no longer blocked him. Without hesitation, Xianxia slipped into the crack as he sent a divine sense message to Yuhi. Go back to Voidland and wait for me. I'll definitely bring Proprietress out of this place. Yuhi widened her eyes in disbelief and shot forward to follow him, but the crack disappeared the next instant. When she reached the spot, the entrance was nowhere to be seen. Bai Qi was dumbfounded as well. As they exchanged glances, they inspected the void around them but failed to find the entrance. A pale Tizhang said, "Stop wasting your time. The entrance is so well hidden that even this monarch is unable to sense it, let alone you all. The reason that Brat can enter it is that he's a master of the Tao of space."
Still, it's a wise choice that he went in alone. Zhu Jiuyin shot him a cold glance. What do you mean? Tizhang replied with a smile, the shadowless cave heaven is an extremely strange place where one can enter but not come out.
Over the years, many open heaven realm masters have accidentally fallen into it, but no one has ever managed to leave, so no one knows what's going on inside. Although that boy can enter easily enough, he probably doesn't have the confidence to come out again. So he doesn't want to drag all of you into it. Ha ha ha. He's just a fifth-order open heaven realm master. Does he think he can change anything by going in? At this moment, he was completely at ease.
Even though he didn't achieve his goal of killing Yang Kai, he had managed to force him to become a fifth-order open heaven realm master, which was good enough.
Could be said that the cave heavens and paradises could stop worrying about anyone challenging their status, as Yang Kai's future was now ruined. The best a fifth-order open heaven realm master could achieve was the seventh order in the future, which was in the same order as them now. Moreover, it'd take Yang Kai millennia to reach the seventh order by ordinary means, so there was truly nothing for them to worry about. Senior Sister Zhu, pardon my previous offense. I'll take my leave now. Tizhang cupped his fist at Zhu Jiuyin and left.
They had engaged in a life-and-death battle just now because they were on opposing sides, but there wasn't any feud between them. Since the issue had been settled, there wasn't a need to be hostile towards each other. Zhu Jiuyin was a divine spirit after all, so he had to show her due respect.
All four high-rank open heaven realm masters turned into rays of light and disappeared from Zhu Jiuyin's sight. They had suffered immense losses in this battle. Other than their own injuries, the over 20 mid-rank open heaven realm masters that they had brought with them were either killed or captured by Black Crow Divine Monarch. Only 5 or 6 of them had survived. These losses were considered painful for the cave heavens and paradises. It wasn't easy to nurture 5th order and 6th order open heaven realm masters, as it took a long time and countless resources. Yu He and Bai Qi were still looking for the entrance of the shadowless cave heaven, as they continuously inspected the area, but to no avail. Tizhang and the others must have a way to open the portal. Otherwise, they couldn't have made the proprietress fall into it at an opportune time. There was no way Tizhang would tell them how to open it though, so it was pointless for them to ask him about it.
After standing around for a while, Zhu Jiuyin sighed and said, "Stop wasting your time.
The portal is so well hidden that even this queen is unable to sense anything. So there's no way you two will find anything even if you keep looking." "You cannot sense anything either, senior?" Bai Qi was stunned. If Zhu Jiuyin also couldn't sense it, there was no way he and Yu He could.
After a long sigh, he looked in the direction Yang Kai had disappeared and fell into a dazed state. In order to save the proprietress, Bai Qi traveled to Void Land to inform Yang Kai about the incident. In the end, Yang Kai was forced to become a 5th order open heaven realm master, which basically destroyed his future. Now he had gone into the shadowless cave heaven on his own, and no one was sure whether he could come out again. All these results left Bai Qi feeling extremely guilty. Yu He stopped making a move as her eyes were filled with anxiety and worry. Xu Huashang came over and comforted her by saying, "Junior brother Yang is a man who can create miracles that others can't even dream of. Since he decided to go in on his own, he must have his own considerations and plans." Certainly, Yu He was aware of that. Just like what Tizhang had said, no one had yet been able to come out of the shadowless cave heaven over the years, so no one knew what was going on inside. Yang Kai must have been worried that none of them could come out if they all went in together, so he decided to venture in alone. As a master of the Tao of space, if he was unable to find a way out, it was pointless for the others to go in with him. "Let's go," Zhu Jiuyin said. She felt sorry that Yang Kai was forced to become a 5th order open heaven realm master on this day, and he had even dived into the shadowless cave heaven, so it wasn't certain whether they'd have a chance to meet again. Since she had gotten rid of the oath restraining her, she felt completely at ease now. The problem now was how she was going to explain this matter to Shan Qingluo when she returned. It gave her a headache just thinking about that young woman rashly deciding to come all the way here to look for him. She truly valued this junior of hers who had a source from her lineage. You all can go back first. I must wait for young master here, Yuhi gently replied. Even though she was unable to go in with Yang Kai, she was determined to wait for his return regardless of whether it would take her a month or a century. What's the point of doing that? Zhu Jioyin snapped. Before he left, he told you to go back to Voidland and take care of his sect.
What's the point of you lingering here? Voidland is still in its development phase, and there is no powerful master to assume command of it now. Mo May has to manage the Star City, so who can take care of Voidland if you don't go back?
If you really want to help that brat, go back and help him manage Voidland well. Wouldn't it be better if he returns one day and sees a prosperous sect rather than a desolate one? After a moment of silence, Yuhi replied in a small voice, Senior is right. Upon seeing that she was willing to listen to reason, Zhu Jioyi nodded in satisfaction. Let's go. A while later,
the four of them followed the previous route and left the shattered heaven. Then Chu Huashang bid them farewell. Although she didn't represent her sect when she followed Yang Kai to this place, she had indeed caused some trouble. Therefore, she had to return to Inyang Cave Heaven and receive her punishment. She probably wouldn't be able to leave her sect for a while. Meanwhile, a figure was rapidly shooting towards the territory gate in the shattered heaven. The person's face was ashen as he coughed from time to time. Besides the fact that blood was still dripping from the corner of his mouth, his aura was a complete mess. He was none other than Tijing. For high-rank Open Heaven Realm Masters had joined forces to deal with Zhu Jioyin, but the result of that intense battle was that both parties had been injured. While Zhu Jioyin indeed suffered serious wounds, the four high-rank Open Heaven Realm Masters didn't fare any better. Tijing was in especially bad condition because Zhu Jioyin was incensed at his humiliating remarks towards her. So most of her attacks were targeted at him Tijing during the battle. There were even times when he almost lost his life. With a bitter smile, Tijing mused on how it was indeed difficult to deal with a mature divine spirit. He was a 7th-order Open Heaven Realm Master, but if he were to fight a one-on-one fight with Zhu Jioyin, he would probably lose his life within an incense stick. He had never been so severely wounded before. The flesh wounds didn't matter as they would heal eventually, the problem was his small universe. The fierce battle destabilized his small universe and caused his world force to become chaotic. Now, he desperately needed to look for a place to stabilize his small universe. Otherwise, he would be left with huge problems in the future. His situation was similar to what Bai Qi had recently experienced. The reason Bai Qi got out of danger was that he had consumed a star-gathering universe pill. If there were also star-gathering universe pills around at this moment, it could help alleviate Tijing's problem. Bai Qi was a 5th-order Open Heaven Realm Master, so just one pill was enough to fix his situation. On the other hand, Tijing was a 7th-order Open Heaven Realm Master, so he would require more pills. Unfortunately, it was extremely difficult to refine such pills, so they were always scarce on the market. Back then, Yang Kai had paid a huge price to find an alchemist to refine the pill. Hence, even though Tijing was a 7th-order Open Heaven Realm Master, he didn't have such a pill on him. Furthermore, he had never expected that he would need such a pill one day. If he had only known, he would have prepared one in advance. Presently, he had parted ways with the other 3 masters. He had been feigning calm and nonchalance so that no one could tell how serious his injuries were. However, now that he was alone, he was unable to conceal his condition anymore. His small universe was continuously shaking while the weltering world force caused his blood to churn. All of a sudden, he looked to the side and bellowed, "Who goes there?" Looking up, he saw someone surrounded by demon chi rapidly approaching him. Tijing stared intently and saw through the demon chi, and upon making out the person's face, he set his mind at ease. When the person reached Tijing, he cupped his fist and greeted, "Sir." Tijing nodded lightly, then he suddenly grunted and coughed out some blood. The person asked in shock, "Are you injured, sir?" Tijing waved his hand and replied, "I'm fine." "Where are the others?" the person said in a bitter voice. "They're all gone. Only I managed to escape. Earlier, Black Crow Divine Monarch had been hunting us down, so we had no choice but to run and hide. When I sensed your aura just now, I immediately came to you." Upon hearing that, Tijing felt speechless. This time, Myriad Demons Heaven had sent out 7 mid-rank Open Heaven Realm Masters, but only one of them survived in the end, which was a complete tragedy.
He secretly swore that he would capture Black Crow one day and let him know the consequences of offending him. Then he stared deeply at the person and said, "You're pretty lucky." The person before his eyes was just a 5th-order Open Heaven Realm Master. The 2 6th-order Open Heaven Realm Masters had died, but this 5th-order kid managed to survive. Embarrassed, the person replied, "I'm too weak. So Black Crow didn't target me immediately. Perhaps that's why I had a chance to flee." Right then, Tizheng grunted again. Besides from his lips, blood was also leaking from his eyes and nostrils, which made him look extremely miserable. The person exclaimed, "Are you all right, sir?" Still, Tizheng waved his hand. The person immediately summoned a ship and said, "Please board and recuperate, sir. I'll bring us back to Myriad Demon's heaven now." Tizheng nodded and entered the ship. After finding a secret room, he opened the isolation barriers, sat down cross-legged and stuffed some pills into his mouth. As he emptied his mind and circulated his secret art, he tried to bring order to the chaos in his small universe. His injuries couldn't be healed in a short period of time, so even if he returned to Myriad Demon's heaven, it would take him 3 to 5 years to fully recover. Meanwhile, the 5th-order Open Heaven Realm Master from Myriad Demon's heaven was standing silently on the deck as the ship moved toward somewhere in the shattered heaven. As demon chi undulated, a small part of the fog floated away and revealed a pair of fervent and tempted eyes. Soon, a sense of determination flashed through his gaze as beneath the demon chi, the person curved his lips into a ferocious grin. 1 hour later, Tizheng, who was recuperating in the secret room, became alarmed as he hurriedly opened his eyes. A 7th-order Open Heaven Realm Master like him had incredibly sharp intuition, so he was often able to detect danger before it even befell him. Before he could figure out what was going on, he heard an explosion and the ship rocked violently. The ship had been struck and was about to explode. Upon that realization, Tizheng roared and shot up as he used his immense power to repel the shrapnel around him. Just when he tried to find out what had happened, he felt a violent force coming at him from all directions, which caused him to spray out a mouthful of blood. Even though the explosion was powerful, it couldn't possibly harm him. The reason he fell into such a state was that he had been interrupted while he was in a meditative state. These were no ordinary injuries as his small universe had been destabilized, so he couldn't be interrupted while trying to stabilize them. At that instant, he realized that the condition of his small universe had exacerbated. Instead of healing, it had actually worsened. While Tizheng looked around in a dazed state, he saw a figure surrounded by demon chi come flying at him backwards. The person was the only subordinate of Tizheng's that survived. It wasn't certain what kind of attack he had suffered from, but at this moment, he was spraying out a mouthful of blood and tumbling through the void like a sack. "Sir, run! Black Crow set up an ambush," the person exclaimed. "Black Crow?" Tizheng was both shocked and infuriated. If he were in peak condition, he, a 7th-order Open Heaven Realm Master, naturally wouldn't be afraid of Black Crow. However, at this moment, his small universe was in an unstable state, so he wasn't able to battle against anyone. If he forcefully tried to stimulate his world force, there would be a risk his small universe would collapse, and the consequences would be dreadful. He felt resentful, thinking that Black Crow must be aware that he was in a terrible condition, so the latter seized the chance and attacked him. There was no doubt that Black Crow was a despicable person. After hesitating between fighting and fleeing for a moment, Tizheng gritted his teeth and turned to leave. Presently, Black Crow had many powerful Open Heaven Realm Masters working for him, and he himself was a master who had been reborn by seizing another's body, so he probably had a lot of dangerous methods at his disposal. It would be a foolish decision if Tizheng decided to stay, as he might lose his life here. At that moment, he felt completely vexed. If he hadn't been injured, he wouldn't have been oppressed by someone much weaker than him. He had never felt so humiliated in his life. While he was still lost in his thoughts, Tizheng suddenly heard a series of gentle thuds. Then his entire figure shook as though something had penetrated his defense and reached for his vital points. Following a sharp pain, he realized that it was difficult for him to use his strength, and even his figure had stiffened. A hand had silently penetrated his body from behind and grasped his heart. Tizheng widened his eyes in fury as he was bound to the spot. With difficulty, he turned his head and saw a face that was covered with demon chi. Then his expression darkened.
The demon chi weltered and cleared away before a smiling but wicked-looking face was revealed. He was none other than Tizheng's only surviving subordinate.
It was then Tizheng realized that he had been set up by his own subordinate, which was totally inconceivable to him. Certainly, he had figured out by now that Black Crow was nowhere near and that it was this person who detonated the ship on his own.
"What are you doing, Emoshang?" Tizheng asked in a grim voice. "Emoshang?" The man chuckled. "You're wrong. This king isn't Emoshang. Emoshang is long dead. This king is just using his body." "You took over his body?" Tizheng's face fell as he recalled something.
Many years ago, a person named Mo Shang suddenly came to Myriad Demon's heaven and claimed that he was the sect's disciple. However, he accidentally fell into a sealed world and became trapped for many years. Right after he broke free from that place, he immediately returned to Myriad Demon's heaven.
However, since the incident took place too long ago, the records from that period were spotty at best, especially regarding a lower-level disciple.
Nevertheless, they still found a document from over 100,000 years ago that had some information about Mo Shang, thus confirming that he was indeed their disciple. In the past, he suddenly disappeared for no reason and there had never been any news about him since.
This was similar to the statement he had given. Moreover, his pure demon chi couldn't be faked, so Myriad Demon's heaven accepted him in the end. When Mo Shang returned to the sect at that time, he still wasn't an open heaven realm master, but his aptitude was excellent, so he managed to ascend to the Fifth Order Open Heaven in just a few years. He was then assigned to work under Tizheng.
Since they had to set up a locking divine spirit array this time, Tizheng decided to bring Mo Shang with him. However, it never crossed his mind that he'd be harmed by this person instead of getting killed by Zhu Jiuyin.
Tizheng's fury was burning within him as he widened his eyes and said through clenched teeth, "Who are you?" The person replied smilingly, "Do you want to know? I don't mind telling you." Then, he sported a solemn expression and yelled, "This king is Wu Kuang, the one destined to conquer the 3,000 worlds and one day become its supreme ruler." Tizheng was so exasperated that he started laughing. "You want to be the ruler of the 3,000 worlds? Ridiculous." He looked at Wu Kuang as though the latter was a lunatic. Usually, if he heard a Fifth Order Open Heaven realm master say such a thing, he would have laughed out loud. Nevertheless, at this moment, he didn't have the strength to do so. Wu Kuang chuckled and said, "You won't be able to find out whether I'm being ridiculous or not because you're going to die today. Don't even try to use your world force. This king's all-sealing needle is an ancient artifact. Once it's inserted into a person's body, it will seal off his small universe unless he's able to force it out."
"It seems that you're really severely wounded, otherwise I wouldn't have stood a chance to succeed." Tizheng said grimly, "So what if you kill me?"
"You want to become the ruler of the 3,000 worlds? That's a pretty ambitious goal. Why don't you release me and let this monarch lend you a hand instead?" His small universe was in chaos, so he was unable to surge his power to begin with.
Now, his world force had even been restricted by Wu Kuang's all-sealing needle, so he was totally powerless to counterattack. Therefore, he was racking his brain to come up with a way to get himself out of danger. Wu Kuang sneered, "Do you think this king is a 3-year-old child who would believe such an empty promise?"
"You'll kill me the moment I release you. Am I right?" Tizheng said, "I can make a heart demon oath. As long as you release me, I'll never settle accounts with you. What's more, I can give you a lot of resources for cultivation. As a mere Fifth Order Open Heaven cultivator, without my support, it will take you ages to reach the Seventh Order. However, things will be different with my backing. I can assure you that I'll help you ascend to the Seventh Order Open Heaven realm within 1,000 years, as long as you have the necessary aptitude." Wu Kuang shook his head. 1,000 years is too long. Tizheng's face fell as he said, "How can you say that it's too long a time to go from the Fifth Order to the Seventh Order?
Do you know how long it took this monarch to go from the 6th Order to the 7th Order? I'm not interested to find out anything about you," Wu Kuang scoffed. A pale Tizheng snapped, "Are you determined to kill me?"
"Even if you kill me here, you won't get any benefits.
Most of this monarch's assets have fallen into that brat Yang Kai's hands, so what's the point of you doing this?" This was what puzzled Tizheng the most.
Even though Wu Kuang had taken over Mo Shang's body, Tizheng reckoned that he had been treating him well over the years as he rarely reproached him. What was Wu Kuang trying to do by taking such a huge risk to launch a sneak attack on him at this moment? Your very existence is the biggest benefit for me, sir. Wu Kuang looked fervently at Tizhang as he licked his lips. I've never tasted a 7th Order Open Heaven Realm Master before. I'll enjoy it now, sir. Please do your best to persevere until the end. Following that, Tizhang suddenly felt a horrifying suction coming from the hand that was grasping his heart. Under the influence of this suction force, his blood essence and the heritage of his small universe uncontrollably streamed towards Wu Kuang. A horrified Tizhang widened his eyes and exclaimed, "The Grand Evolution Immortal Bloodlight Scripture?" Soon, however, he shook his head and realized that it wasn't the Grand Evolution Immortal Bloodlight Scripture. Even though he had never cultivated it before, thus not knowing the abstruseness of it, one of his disciples had comprehended some chapters of the scripture before. Therefore, Tizhang had some basic understanding of it. As far as he knew, the Grand Evolution Immortal Bloodlight Scripture was indeed an incredible secret art, but it could only be used to absorb blood essence. There was no way it could absorb the heritage of a person's small universe like what was happening now. Wu Kuang's secret art shared some similarities with Grand Evolution Immortal Bloodlight Scripture, but it seemed that his was even more powerful. What kind of evil technique is this? Tizhang asked in horror. Heaven-devouring battle law. Wu Kuang seemed to be enjoying himself greatly as though he was feasting on the most delectable delicacy in the world. Not only did he appear ecstatic, but his voice quivered in ecstasy. It is the secret art that this king devised himself. How does it feel, sir? Upon hearing that, Tizhang was flabbergasted. This person was an extraordinary genius to be able to create such a secret art. Just now, Tizhang scoffed at Wu Kuang for shamelessly boasting that he would conquer the entire 3,000 worlds and become its ruler. But now Tizhang kind of believed him. A person who was able to devise such a secret art was bound to achieve great things in life. It was a shame that he had only ascended to the 5th Order Open Heaven realm, so the limitations of his future had been set in stone. Wonderful! Wu Kuang guffawed. A 7th Order Open Heaven Realm Master tastes much better than those 4th and 5th Order Open Heaven Realm cultivators. Sir, your power is sufficient for me to ascend to the 6th Order. Many thanks for giving it to me. Upon hearing that, Tizhang recalled that there were times when several of his subordinates and Wu Kuang went out to carry out some tasks. But some of his subordinates would be killed in the end and only a battered Wu Kuang managed to return. Tizhang had only thought that they had come across some kind of danger, but now it seemed that his subordinates were actually killed by Wu Kuang. As he felt the foundation of his small universe leaving him like a flood, and he couldn't help but feel flustered even though he was usually a resolute person. It wasn't like he had never expected to die one day. There was no way a human could live forever, but this kind of death was simply too miserable. Presently, the all-sealing needle in his body had sealed off his small universe, which disallowed him to use his own power as he pleased. If he rashly surged his world force, his situation would probably exacerbate. Faced with this lunatic named Wu Kuang, Tizhang realized that there was nothing he could do to deal with him. As his thoughts ran through his mind, he suddenly said through gritted teeth, "Since you want to devour this king's power, I'll give it all to you. Let's see how much you can absorb." Upon finishing his words, instead of trying to stop his strength from leaving his body, he did the opposite and cooperated. As he bore the excruciating pain, he attempted to force the all-sealing needle out of his body while frantically infusing the power of his small universe into Wu Kuang's body. Even though Wu Kuang's heaven-devouring battle law was an extremely evil art, he was just a 5th Order Open Heaven Realm Master. Therefore, he was still much weaker than a 7th Order Open Heaven Realm Master, and the capacity of his body and small universe was limited. If Tizhang could push him over the edge, he might stand a chance to live. Surprisingly, Wu Kuang started laughing like a madman. "Many thanks, sir. Please give me all of your power." As he spoke, a layer of blood mist formed around his body, and even all his 7 orifices started bleeding. It was apparent that he had been impacted by Tizhang's efforts. Upon seeing that, Tizhang clenched his teeth and continued what he was doing to fight for a chance to survive. Half a day later, Tizhang fell into a despairing state. Most of the foundation of his small universe was gone. Even if Wu Kuang stopped sucking his strength now, his cultivation would definitely regress, and it would take him countless years to restore it, if that was even possible. On the other hand, Wu Kuang had swollen significantly after absorbing so much power, now looking like a giant fatty.
World force could be seen spurting out from his pores and bringing with it streams of blood, which formed a thick layer of blood mist around his body. It seemed that he would explode at any moment due to his inability to contain so much power, but in reality, he didn't seem to have the intention of stopping as he still madly used his heaven-devouring battle law to absorb Tizheng's power. Furthermore, as time passed, Wu Kuang's aura increased rapidly. It had only been 7 or 8 years since Wu Kuang ascended to the Fifth Order Open Heaven realm. This amount of time was normally only enough for a cultivator to stabilize his cultivation, but presently, Wu Kuang seemed to be at the peak of the Fifth Order Open Heaven realm as he was showing signs of achieving a breakthrough. Upon seeing that, Tizheng was horrified. What kind of evil technique is this heaven-devouring battle law? Does it even allow him to rapidly increase his cultivation without any drawbacks? Without saying a word, Wu Kuang madly circulated his heaven-devouring battle law and greedily absorbed the last remnants of the Seventh Order cultivator's small universe. This kind of chance was extremely hard to come by. Even though he had done similar things before, the ones he targeted had always been Fourth and Fifth Order Open Heaven Realm Masters. Now that there was such a great chance, he certainly wouldn't want to miss it. In fact, it was all thanks to Xianxia that he managed to have this chance. If Xianxia hadn't brought a mature divine spirit with him that severely injured Tizheng, Wu Kuang's sneak attack wouldn't have been successful. It never crossed his mind that Xianxia would manage to cause such a massive stir in the 3,000 worlds just several decades after they separated, even becoming the Lord of Voidland. It was true that a talented person would never fall into oblivion wherever he went. 3 days later, Wu Kuang stopped circulating his secret technique and took a deep breath to suppress his weltering vitality. After 3 days of continuous absorption, he had swollen tremendously. From afar, he looked more like a balloon than a person. Blood was still streaming out of his 7 orifices as the blood mist swirled around him. However, his aura was already much stronger than when he started. There was no doubt that he had reached the peak of the Fifth Order Open Heaven realm. On the other hand, Tizheng's breathing was extremely weak. His gaze was listless and his figure had withered as his small universe had been completely drained. Presently, he was already on his last legs. Even if Wu Kuang decided not to kill him, he would soon die. "Do you have any last words?" Wu Kuang asked in a grim voice. Without saying a word, Tizheng stared fixedly at him. Wu Kuang nodded. "Farewell then, sir." Then he landed a palm on Tizheng, who exploded into dust and went with the wind. The fact that a Seventh Order Open Heaven Realm Master fell into such a state was truly miserable. After killing Tizheng, Wu Kuang immediately shot towards the depths of the shattered heaven. Soon, he found a spirit province and snuck into it. Then, he set up a number of spirit arrays that could conceal his presence and set the spirit province moving towards his destination. Following that, he sat down with his legs crossed and focused on refining the power he had just absorbed. He was extremely full now, so it would take him a long time before he could digest it all. When he stepped out of seclusion next, he would be a Sixth Order Open Heaven Realm Master. He was the one who had created the heaven-devouring battle law, and since he arrived at the 3,000 worlds, he had modified and improved it several times. With this heaven-defying secret art in his hands, he could just drain the powers of some Open Heaven Realm Masters to increase his cultivation, which was why he disregarded Tizheng's promise to him. Just like what Wu Kuang had said, 1,000 years was too long for him. If he wanted to ascend to the Seventh Order Open Heaven Realm, he just had to look for his own chances instead of waiting for others' help. Oh! Under the gray sky, there was a barren land that was filled with death chi. The principles and world force in this place seemed broken and incomplete. Is this the shadowless cave heaven? Presently, Xianxia was standing on a barren mountain as he looked around with a frown. Compared to the blood monster cave heaven, the shadowless cave heaven was too dreary. Although the blood monster cave heaven was just a universe cave heaven, it had a lot of different biomes and sceneries. However, the shadowless cave heaven was extremely desolate as far as the eye could see, which puzzled Xianxia greatly. This was the first place he landed after he passed through the void and entered the shadowless cave heaven. Since there was a portal, one should theoretically be able to go in as well as come out.
However, after scanning his surroundings for a long time, Yang Kai was unable to detect any space principle fluctuations nearby, let alone find the entrance where he had just passed through.
In other words, if he wanted to leave the shadowless cave heaven, he had to look for a different exit. Where's Proprietress? Yang Kai looked around but found nothing. Nevertheless, since the shadowless cave heaven was just a universe cave heaven, its landmass shouldn't be comparable to a true universe world. As long as Proprietress was here, he would find her one day. Before he even moved though, Yang Kai suddenly detected something and looked in a particular direction only to see some figures rapidly approaching him. In the blink of an eye, they already reached him. There were 3 people in total. Their auras suggested that they were all open heaven realm masters, with the leading one being a middle-aged man in the 5th order, then there was a 4th order woman and a 3rd order young man.
At first glance, they looked like they were a family of some kind. However, when a cultivator reached the open heaven realm, it was impossible to tell his age by looking at his appearance. Therefore, Yang Kai couldn't be sure that they were indeed related.
He was just trying to look for the Proprietress when he came across these people, which elated him. Obviously, he had caused some disturbance when he entered this place, which attracted these people. Before Yang Kai could ask anything, the middle-aged man sized him up and asked, "Are you a newcomer?" Yang Kai saw no reason to deny it, so he simply nodded, "Yes." The middle-aged man said, "Judging from your aura, you seem to have just broken through." Yang Kai's aura was too conspicuous as he was unable to completely control it yet. Anyone who wasn't blind could easily tell that he was a newly promoted open heaven realm master.
Yang Kai nodded again. "Indeed. Such a shame." The middle-aged man shook his head while the woman and the young man behind him appeared sympathetic. It was truly miserable that Yang Kai had fallen into this place not long after he entered the open heaven realm. After comparing their own experiences to Yang Kai's, they felt less frustrated now. At the very least, they only accidentally fell into the shadowless cave heaven many years after they entered the open heaven realm.
"What's your name, senior brother?" Yang Kai cupped his fist at the middle-aged man. The middle-aged man replied, "Ma Tian Yuan." "So it is senior brother Ma." Yang Kai flashed a smile at him. "I'm new to this place, so I know nothing."
"Would it be all right if I ask you some questions?" A curious Ma Tian Yuan gazed at him and asked, "What do you want to know?" "I'm looking for 3 people," Yang Kai replied. "They arrived in this place half a year ago. 1 woman and 2 men. The woman is a 6th order master while the 2 men with her are in the 5th order. One of the men wears a big apron with a slaughter character on it, while the other has a pair of arrogant-looking eyes that makes you want to punch him on sight." As soon as Yang Kai finished speaking,
Ma Tian Yuan narrowed his eyes while the 4th order open heaven realm master woman and the 3rd order open heaven realm master young man exchanged glances. It seemed that the Proprietress was indeed in the shadowless cave heaven. At the very least, Ma Tian Yuan and the others seemed to recognize her, chef and accountant. If not, they wouldn't have reacted in such a way.
"Haha. So, you're close to that Madam Junior brother." Ma Tian Yuan suddenly laughed. An elated Yang Kai asked, "Do you know where they are, senior brother Ma?" Ma Tian Yuan replied, "I do. They're guests in our unrivaled guild, which is not far away from this place."
"If you want to see them, this Ma can lead the way for you." A grateful Yang Kai said, "Many thanks, senior brother Ma. Don't mention it. That madam is Unrivaled Guild's honored guest. Since you're close to her, you're also our guest. This way, please." Ma Tian Yuan extended his hand towards a particular direction. After thanking him one more time, Yang Kai followed after him. He himself followed closely by the woman and the young man.
On the way to their destination, Yang Kai asked curiously, "Senior brother Ma, it's my first day here, so I know nothing about this place. What kind of place is this unrivaled guild?"
"Is it your great force?" Ma Tian Yuan replied, "I wouldn't dare to say that. The 3 leaders of Unrivaled Guild are all 6th order open heaven realm masters, while this Ma is only a 5th order.
I'm just someone who works for the leaders, so I wouldn't dare to say that Unrivaled Guild belongs to me." A shocked Yang Kai asked, "There are 3 6th order open heaven realm masters in Unrivaled Guild?" There were only 2 6th order open heaven realm masters in all of Voidland. Throughout the entire 3,000 worlds, it was rare for any second-class great force to have 3 6th order open heaven realm masters. The woman couldn't help but add, "Big Brother Ma was also a 6th order open heaven realm master in the past." An astounded Yang Kai turned to look at Ma Tian Yuan. since you managed to reach the 6th order, how did you end up in the 5th order? Ma Tianyuan appeared dejected as he shook his head with a bitter smile. It's a long story. You've just come to the shadowless cave heaven, so you have no idea about the environment here. You'll soon find out how dangerous this place is soon enough. By the way, how did you fall into this place? I came here looking for someone, Yang Kai replied. Upon hearing that, the 3 people sported awkward expressions. Ma Tianyuan asked, Are you looking for that madam? Yang Kai nodded. Ma Tianyuan tutade. You've come all the way here to look for her? Do you know that no one has ever left this shadowless cave heaven before? Once you fall into this place, you'll never be able to escape. I did hear about that. Yang Kai nodded and put on a smile. However, I believe that as long as there's a will, we'll be able to find a way out. There was an admiring look on Ma Tianyuan's face. Those 3 people must be very important to you. Yang Kai smiled gently. That woman is called Yuhi. She's my elder sister, so she's certainly important to me. I see. Ma Tianyuan nodded upon hearing that. Yang Kai went on to say, Elder sister Yu, he has done me a lot of favors. Without her support, I couldn't have achieved anything in this life. Ma Tianyuan praised him by saying, You're a righteous man who knows how to repay favors. This Ma is more than happy to become friends with someone like you. Why did you stop walking suddenly, junior brother? He was puzzled at the sight of Yang Kai stopping in his tracks all of a sudden. As their eyes met, Yang Kai looked smilingly at him with a meaningful gaze. That elder sister that I'm looking for is not named Yuhi, Yang Kai said slowly.